And we're live. Aha, there we go. Hello, folks. How are we doing? It's 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. We thought we would just pop on tonight. We've been off for a couple of weeks there. We had just a chat about Dune 2 because we managed to see it. So, yeah. So, just first of all, a wee bit of housekeeping, I suppose, with the Dune Book Club that we were supposed to be on last week. And just to let you know, what happened was I ended up hurting my shoulder and neck quite badly and have been in a tremendous amount of pain, which is why we didn't go with the book club the week past there, unfortunately. The work was done, so we've just set it up that we'll get back at it this week. And in the meantime, I just thought, well, do you know what? While we're waiting for Thursday, as much as I was considering, I see everybody and their grandmother has made a Dune review, etc., and having a wee bit of a chat about the film. And I just thought it would be better to pop on live and maybe to do so and have a chat with you all and check in and say hello. So there's folks saying hello. Matt S. saying, hi, Doc. Hi, Matt. How are you? And Carlos Crucelia saying, what's up, Doc? Bit out of breath trying to get here in here and sat down for 11 o'clock, Carlos, but I'm okay. Matt said, "Oh no, sorry to hear about your injury, Doc. Hope you'll get well soon." Yeah, it's the injury I got a couple of years ago, and I've been fine. It was my birthday as well, which is why I wasn't going the first week there, I suppose. But the second week I had planned to be on for Leap Day, wasn't it? But whatever, I've just somehow did something to it, and I think I actually probably pinched a nerve or something, but yeah, it's not been fun. And I was actually the sort of the person that would still have a go at doing this, and just chop down the painkillers and go for it. But my wife convinced me otherwise because I was in absolute agony. And you maybe have noticed about me, but I have lots of very fast, kind of exaggerated head movements, and at the minute to do that kind of thing is not fun. But it's on the mend. Thanks for asking after it, guys. Just tell people you had a run in with some ninjas. Oh dear. But yeah, it's one of those things where, as I said, it's an injury I got a couple of years ago with my dad up in the hospital, and I thought it was fine, and I'd exercised it and done everything, and just thought everything's tickety boo. Hadn't done any extreme exertion or anything like that. And I think, in all honesty, I fell asleep on it and lay on it in a bad way, but just woke up in agony. All injuries are the gift that keep on giving, aren't they? They are indeed. But no, I'm much better today, guys. Anyway, and I've been out and about. I went out yesterday to see Dune Part 2 at the local cinema, so I didn't have to rush off to Belfast or anything this time. And I went on with Todd. So the wife basically had not enjoyed the Dune Part 1 experience at all and decided that she wasn't going. But we popped along and had a wee look. I don't know, have any of you seen the Dune film, Dune Part 2 yet? Let me know. And I thought I would have a little bit of a chat. I'd scribbled down some of my thoughts on the end of oddly enough, on the end of the book club chapter. Just went to see Dune Part 2 and put the wee date down. 1st of March 2024. And I've got some thoughts and some thoughts about the film, I have to say. Quite a few, to be honest with you. But I'll just check with you guys it's okay if you're happy enough for me to chat away about it in terms of spoilers and stuff like that. As I said, I think plenty of people have put up spoiler full videos already now, and I thought I'd take a wee bit of time to sort of digest it as well, But I'm wondering if any of you have seen it and what you think. And I'm still mulling through it, I suppose. But I'll before I get going, I will say this is that I enjoyed going to the cinema this time much more than the previous time. The last time was a nightmare, and the film was appalling. I think I said it was one of my worst, it was the worst cinematic experience of my life. It was the worst film I'd ever seen in the cinema. And I think it was a lot to do with the cinema, to be honest with you. Excuse me. Matt says, I have not seen Dune Part 2. I hear the Death Star explodes at the end. Aye. Oh, I nearly went with yes, it does. Matt, I don't know. I think the second part's much more enjoyable than the first part. And I think, as you said, the Death Star explodes, Matt. I think for non-Dune fans, this is their Star Wars. I think it's a visual spectacle. It's the second half's quite impressive. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching it. Um, if you know what I mean, just to go, oh, this looks good, and etc. etc. And enjoyed it a lot more than the first part, which I've watched over and over again, and I've kind of gotten to like it less and less the more I look at it. Um, I think overall, I'm probably going to say I would say that just in terms of us who know us on the station and our local audience and stuff like that, if that's a word, global audience, our regulars. I think this is probably the least faithful adaptation of Dune there is so far. Um, and I, as I said, I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed part two. I thought I was watching a well-made movie, but yeah, it's. I think the choices that Denis Villeneuve and his fellow writers, I think, have made within the film aren't making sense to me at all. I'll be honest with you, guys. This week, I've paid. What I thought I would do is keep a complete. I've always said I'd keep a completely open mind about the film and not kind of try and bring any kind of critique or judgment to it until I've seen the whole thing, because it is a part one and part two. But I've spent a fair bit of the week listening to, how would we put it, the hype machine that's been on YouTube and on the news and in the papers, etc. And then I've been listening to a lot of other reviewers, etc., and listening to the same sort of language come out a lot. It's been quite interesting. Um, from my own point of view, someone who picks apart language. Um, but I did kind of enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it. I'm half and half about it. I'd say as a Dune fan, as a movie fan, I kind of enjoyed it and thought it was much more entertaining than the first part. But as a Dune fan, I don't. I maybe could we maybe agree that I'm probably a bit of a purist in this kind of way. I wasn't too happy with a lot of the changes. I think I'll have a wee chat about them as we go, if you like. Um, Matt S says Dune 1 was an okay experience, but it felt over stylized, and I can't get away from the idea that 1980s Dune is actually the real one, and this is just an independent sci fi story. And there's Brandon Craig. Hi, Brandon. Brandon says, long time lurker here. I've seen the film and I'm hoping for a more honest review of the movie. I enjoyed it, but would not call it a masterpiece like 75% of reviewers have. Well, I suppose, Brandon, that's the point I was just about to make, is that especially when we've been doing the Dune book club, on to Dune Messiah, we've been talking about Corba the Panegyrist, and there's been a lot of that, hasn't there? There's been just all this. It's masterpiece. He's a genius. It's been quite sycophantic. And again, I've been listening to the comments about it and keeping an open mind. I've been wondering, okay, is it a masterpiece, and is it a work of genius? It's not a masterpiece, not by a long shot. And I actually think, and I'll explain why I think, but I actually think the director's gone out of his way to point out his faults in a kind of way. I've been watching a few of the interviews with Denis Villeneuve as well. Not a lot of them. I've been as many as I could, I suppose. I don't know. I would give it a 6 or 7 out of 10. I think, which is pretty good. I think I enjoyed watching the film. I nearly fell asleep once. There was no popcorn bucket for us, so the promotional material disappointment has been a run on from Dune Part One. We were supposed to get a free poster and they didn't arrive. And I asked about the popcorn buckets, the worm thing. I thought I'd get into the spirit of the thing, if you know what I mean. And they just told me it's quite funny actually. The local cinema just went, no, we're not doing that here. Well, fair enough, No, I think there's quite a few flaws in the film. I think there's a lot of I think the biggest flaws with the film are an extension of some of the criticisms that I made about part one. Um, the characters are just wasted, and the actors who are playing those characters are wasted as well. I think it's. I will try and get. I'll just get a sense of it in my head, and then I'll try and pick each out the different things if you like. um, I think what stood out particularly bad for me, and it's probably a continuation of the late Kynes thing, but I thought Chani's character was really bad. I thought the Emperor was really bad. Um, I thought the Baron was pathetic. Uh, I thought Fade and Raban were quite good in how they were presented, but the Baron I just kind of wanted to know what they'd done with the real Baron. Um, there's a thing with Gurney Halleck, I suppose, that I can have a wee chat about as well about his kind of character route, if you like, and what happens in the film with him. There's the whole Alia thing. Um, I suppose we are going to have to kind of sort of chat about. I'm sure maybe enough of you have been watching the stuff on YouTube that you probably know what the major changes are to the film. And yes, I think it felt a bit Star Warsy, and it's the weird thing. I thought it felt like a war movie. Every time I heard, is it Hans Zimmer's score, that that hey thing, it, it every time I heard it, it reminded me of a cross between the little leitmotif in the Lord of the Rings, that kind of that thing, and the Call of Tarzan, the kind of and I don't know, it bugged me that in my own head I couldn't kind of isolate it, just that it reminded me of all three things, I think, if you know what I mean. Goodness, but I mean, the action was great, it looked good, all that kind of thing, but yeah, it felt very Star Warsy. But that's not a bad thing, and I think, I suppose, the aspects, if you're looking for an honest review of the movie, Brandon, I suppose what Denis Villeneuve is good at is what Denis Villeneuve's good at, and I was quite impressed by the pictures that he painted, that the cinematography, all of that kind of thing. But where I think it was a really simplified version of the story, and it was almost the kind of look at the shiny thing. I think huge aspects of the story are just wiped out and gone, and the main focus just covers the hero, really, that aspect. But I really don't like what's been done to the characters, and I think the characters are quite important. And as for the rest of it, it's more just to do with stuff being missing, really. I think there's a couple of things that are, and I suppose the one person I haven't really talked about is Paul Atreides himself, Timothée Chalamet. I actually thought he was quite good. Oh goodness, I suppose here I need to scribble a couple of these things down as I'm going. There's stuff to do with the Fremen I was wondering about. Fundamentalists, Fremens, North versus South, this kind of thing. So yeah, sorry, I've got some stuff scribbled down here, but the things that are popping into my head quickly, I think I should get them down while I can remember them. But Lady Jessica's character is, I think, away with it as well. I don't know. It's a combination of wasted opportunities, and I genuinely think, well, whatever you think about the flaws for Denis Villeneuve's Dune are, I suppose, within the language of the film, and I don't know how to put it. I think the use of his actors is really bad. To be honest with you, and the use of really, I don't know. There's no Thufir in the second part, for example. He's just gone. But but yeah, I'll try and what I'll do is I'll have a look at your comments because they're piling down here, folks. And then what I'll do is I'll try and pick a few things out, and I'll try and put together something cohesive about my thoughts on the film. But I did enjoy it. I have to say this. I enjoyed it as a moviegoer. And I haven't been to see a film in the cinemas since Dune Part One. Um, it kind of really did just not. I really did not have a good experience with that. I had a really nice experience this time. Nice cinema, nice seats, all of that stuff. Only about 30 people on the screen in the seat, and I got through it. And the ending was okay, you know. um, but I said I didn't walk out hating it, but I didn't like what it had done to Frank Herbert's story. And I think the discussions about what they've done and why they've done it, I think are I'm not too amused by them, if you see what I mean. And particularly, I think I was listening to Denis Villeneuve chat about why he was talking about Dune Messiah, where the conversation's going with that now. In the interview, what he'd done is he'd taken two pieces of information that probably most of us know. One of those pieces of information was that Frank Herbert wasn't too happy with the way that Paul Atreides had been received. The other was that he wrote Dune Messiah, and he decided to put those two things together. That Frank Herbert wrote Dune Messiah because he wasn't happy about how Paul Atreides was received in Dune. That's absolutely not true. If we know that parts of Dune Messiah and Children of Dune are finished before Dune, so there's been information coming out from the film people. I think that's just not been. It shows a bit of a misunderstanding, or certainly a misunderstanding in the kind of information that they're trying to present. You know, but let's just catch up with some comments and see what anybody else has thought here. There's Adept Caron. We haven't seen you in a wee while, sir. I hope you're keeping well. Just how many countries have you been seeing it in, Caron? I wonder. Just came out of my second watch of it. He says, I have some gripes, but they're completely overshadowed by how much I enjoy about it. Excellent. Also, we'll probably go asleep any moment, unfortunately. No problem. I can understand that. Joseph Smith saying, I haven't seen it yet. I'm super worried about what I saw in the trailer. Joseph, the best thing you can do is do what I did and just keep an open mind and just go and enjoy the film. And what will jar with you will jar with you when it jars with you, I suppose. And I can say this, guys. I'll tell you what, folks. I tutted. I was in a small theater with not a lot of people in it. I tutted out loud once, quite loudly. I just like that. And there was a couple of things that I was actually. Again, I've heard the discussion. I was kind of just appalled by them. I just thought they were stupid. Excuse me. Must try and cough away from that microphone. But if you're a film fan, Carlos, just it's go with that. Go and see. First time I saw it in a really bad film. The sound was appalling. The picture was appalling. It was out of focus. I'd been sick, and after having been sick, it looked like that was what was on the screen. It was an appalling experience for us. And whenever I got to see it, Dune Part One on digital download, I suppose, and it was much. Thank goodness, I suppose. But I did enjoy it as well. Just running with what Caron said there, I've got probably more gripes about it than probably most people, I'd say. But I believe that I think as much as people say that this is unadaptable for the screen, I think it's unadaptable for cinema in a good way. I think that this film hasn't done it well, but I still think it's a spectacle to see and that it's entertaining. If you see what I mean. So keep an open mind. As much as we have, there'll be things I think, Joseph, that you'll love about it, and there'll be things that you'll go, what? Honestly, and I think particularly I suppose Dune's an anti-war novel. There's a lot of action, and I thought actually some of it was pretty good. Actually, some of it key sort of moments within the book, and it gave you a sense of sort of how the Fremen and the Harkonnen might use tactics and stuff like that. And I kind of enjoyed that, and how sort of Paul kind of is led into the Fremen. But the thing that I thought was really, one of the things that was really badly wrong was the Chani character. I thought she was wrong in every way. I'm going to have a look at the film here. Let me see. There's a character in Dune, and I didn't catch the character's name. And it's basically Chani's sidekick. Let me see if I can find it here on a listing or something. Let's see. There we go. Is that Shishakli? Is that it? I think is Suhela Jacob is the actress, I believe. I think that's the character. As I said, I didn't catch the character's name on the screen. Sits about with Chani a lot. Sort of, there's a lot. Basically, it seems to me was an actress who might as well have been playing Chani, and seemed to be more like Chani than Zendaya was. I thought. But one of my major criticisms, I suppose, about a couple of the a couple of the roles, and I've written down, and I hope nobody from America takes this wrong, but Chani was American, and so was Irulan, and they sounded American, and they kind of behaved American. That's what I got from it. Amongst all these accents, Chani's very American to me. Excuse me, it jarred a bit, and as did Christopher Walken being Christopher Walken, if you know what I mean. And I thought was very underused as well. Joseph Smith, what will happen to Alia? Oh, I'll get there. I'll defend anything about all day long. It's the score, says Adaptation. That's a point I make. I didn't like a lot of the sound and the music in the first part. I enjoyed the music in this one a lot more. Though there's things with the sound that are really jarring and really grating. Probably the worst was Jessica's character, the use of voice by her and how she uses voice. It was like barking at people a lot. I thought that's what it reminded me of. I get barked at by my dogs all the time. But yeah, I thought that was quite good, and I didn't think anything particularly stood out from the first film, except within the music, except for perhaps the awfulness of the bagpipe guitar. I really didn't like that at all. I just couldn't see what it had to do with House Atreides in any shape or form, But I did think the music was a lot better. The sound effects as well. That sense that you would get from I thought particularly within the cinema. Again, I don't know what it would be like in IMAX, but there's a part in it where Siege Tabor's under attack by artillery, and that really felt quite impressive within the cinema. I liked that. Other cast says, Joseph Smith, Dune fan. I don't feel like spoiling it without being able to hide it behind a tag or something. Laughing aloud says, okay. Joseph says, okay. Major story points from the first film were dropped for the Spacing Guild. Just gone. Bye bye. Not so much as I didn't think he was. I didn't think even Thufir was present at the end. And the crowd, if you know what I mean, the crowd that's around at the end for the final fight within the. I was trying to scan the faces there. To see who was amongst them. And I think I noted Margot Fenring there, but I was kind of looking for, I wonder where Hazimir Fenring is, etc., etc. So there's no Hazimir Fenring, but we're not really supposed to notice him anyway. I wonder if that's kind of an in-joke. But no, it's every character, I think. Every character, I think Paul Fade Raban was a lot more interesting in this. Stilgar is quite funny, but even the use of Stilgar, the Gurney, everything was just felt underused and not right. I think, and it has one of these kind of time goes by over 6 months, if you like. And funny enough, I was just thinking about some of these things in terms of. Oddly enough, doing a bit of Shakespeare with one of my students, and we're talking about Winter's Tale and how it sort of how Shakespeare steps out of kind of the Aristotelian kind of conventions of playwriting for tragedy, etc. One location, one time, this kind of thing. But yeah, Thufir just gone. Um, really, no threads, none of these kind of threads wrapped up or anything like that. Space and Gale, no, the houses of the Landsrad kind of all turn up. They're just like dots in space at the end. That counts as for any book fans going into it wanting to enjoy it. Think of it as one artist's interpretation of Dune with focus of some of its themes, a lot of streamlining for a medium with different strengths. Yes, she was Shackley, who I think is in the book. Paul Hands Maker hooks at one point, maybe for the Sandrider test. Yeah, there's a Shackley character, I believe. She really was almost like a chorus for almost like a chorus for the Fremen, but a chorus for Chani in a funny way. And some of her interactions with Paul, I thought, well, that they should all be with the Chani character, maybe. And I suppose it's part and parcel of how Paul's accepted into Fremen society through Chani and Shishakli. That's it. But I actually thought that Shishakli kind of came across as more what Chani would be like. Does that make sense? They're kind of like buddies in this. To the point where I was kind of confused by looking at the two of them on the screen. And what I really thought was that the actress who was playing Shishakli should be playing Chani, and they should have amalgamated the roles a bit. I think, the rest in peace. Stephen McKinley Henderson was in the special thanks in the credits. Caledon, Caledonia, bagpipes, Caledon. But I think we went with the whole sort of. We had a good chat about it whenever it came out. Cultures with those kind of pipes and stuff like that. That's a good enough connection. I think we could go with that. I suppose we're talking about the whole connection between the ancient Greeks and House Atreides and stuff. And I was kind of expecting something, some kind of Greek music. And it was this kind of thing. I lived in Edinburgh for a while, folks, so I used to not mind the odd bagpipe, but if you live in Edinburgh, you'll hear them every day, and I can't stand them anymore. As well as Tim Blake Nelson, who I still think was probably meant to be Count Fenny. Caron, was Tim Blake Nelson credited in the film then? Let's just see. I'm looking at the cast here. Full. It doesn't occur to me to look on and down. I don't see him. That can't be right. Is that Robert Rodriguez? The Robert Rodriguez? No, I don't see him on the list here. But he was actually who I was looking for. Oh, there he is. Tim Blake Nelson, actor. It says he is there. I was wondering, is there anything on his Wikipedia page or something, recent roles? Yeah, Dune Count Fenring deleted scene, it says on Tim Blake Nelson's Wikipedia page there. So there you go. I guess it's they must have shot a fair amount of the film and changed a certain amount of things, But yeah, that's he's credited there. That's on his Wikipedia page. Deleted scene. One thing we might agree on. Okay, I don't like that Gurney got to battle Raban at the end, laughing like because the book kind of made a point of Gurney not getting the Harkonnen revenge satisfaction. That's one of the things that really I totted out loud to. I think that was it. I wrote it one line earlier. Special thanks section. I'm going to see it tonight. Excellent, Joseph. I think you'll enjoy it, Joseph. I'd happily watch it again. I think the changes to the story and to the characters. I think it loses a lot. I really do. I think it's the most. I think it's how do I put it? I think it's the most appealing to a broad audience version of Dune. I think it's the spectacle. It's the spectacle of the story, and at the end of the day, I think it's a bare bones version of Dune. I think it does focus on one major theme, I think, as somebody pointed out there, to the detriment, but almost to the entire. There's stuff that doesn't make sense. I'll run with this one. This is for anybody who doesn't want to sort of have this, but of course we know that Raban in the book is ripped apart by the Fremen, and that Gurney doesn't get his personal revenge. In fact, there's a little bit to do with sort of Gurney not getting his satisfaction, Paul holding back on promises, this kind of thing. But so let's face it then, one of the spoilers will let you know if anybody doesn't want to know, plug your ears for about 5 seconds. I'll wave my hands when I'm done. But here we go, is that basically that Gurney does get a showdown with Raban, and that would be a satisfying thing based upon what we know about Gurney. But it's kind of it's the dialogue, it's the writing at the end of it, and basically. I'll give you the quote from the film. I think I can remember it okay. It's one of those revenge moments, and he goes, "This is for my Duke, and this is for my friends." That's it. I think he says. And that's the bit where I went, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" And of course, if you know the character, and so to change that, so the idea is Denis Villeneuve and is it John Spoit? Is it who's the other writer? Let's have a look. I get this brought up here. I can actually talk about these people if I can get their names. John Spates, sorry. If they've rewritten this bit to sort of go, well, this would be a more satisfying ending for the audience and for the Dune fans than what's in the book, because Frank does drop things and tease things and lets things fall by deliberately. Then the logical thing to run with that is that Gurney's revenge would be meaningful for the person he's meant to be taking revenge for. If you see what I mean, he would be avenging his sister, wouldn't he? And so it's just that this man Raban's supposed to have killed his sister, hasn't he, in the sleep? So I just thought that was an example of where we're going to rewrite this. We're going to, in an attempt to make it better than the book, make it more satisfying, and then completely fuck it up at the last minute. If you see what I mean, this is for my sister. As would have been, and I think if you were a Dune fan or a fan, and it didn't matter about changes in the book, you would have went, yeah, that does make sense, and you would, yeah, fair enough, you can run with that as a change. But for my Duke and my friends, and it felt weak, and I genuinely think that's really bad writing. It was anticlimactic because of it, I think. It's a little thing, but it's what you do with. I also thought that Gurney's Balicet moment made me cringe quite badly. I thought, and I don't know if as we go with the book club, we've analysed a number of his songs and poems, haven't we? And I genuinely tend to think of them as a bit cringeworthy. So I'm not too sure if that matches the character from the book or not. I think maybe it does, Joseph saying he's going to see it tonight. If I hate it, I can always come home and watch the sci-fi version again, laughing out loud. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I suppose Dune has got some, comparisons that can be made to it. We've got the miniseries, we've got David Lynch's version. Of course, we've got the is it the Spice Diver? Is that it? The edit cut of David Lynch's version of Dune on YouTube. All of which are great, I think. I think it can take its place with them, I suppose, this version of it. But I'm definitely going to say, I think as much as I didn't enjoy the first part of it as much, but I really am hoping, I'm not too sure. I'd like to see it again, but I did enjoy it, and there's things that I wanted to see in it. There were things that I just thought this is. Again, just if we're being told that we can't see a really dangerous baby on the screen, Alia is kind of what I was really looking forward to, as always. There's nothing more delightful than a ridiculously viciously deadly baby on the screen, I think. Um, how we see Alia, how the whole water of life thing, um, Alia as a sort of fetus, and then basically Jessica running around talking to her belly. Jessica's character, because of it, came across as either, I don't know. She came across as quite deranged. I think, in some ways, I think what they did with Jessica was quite bad. I think what they did with the pregnancy was quite bad. What they did with Ali is just, bye bye. 10 seconds of Anna Taylor Joy kind of having a quick chat about something for in a Fremen outfit, and that's it. And then it's I don't know. Jessica's character came across as kind of comical, in a little bit of a deranged way. Um, Chani came across, I think, as I don't know how to put it. Chani's, I suppose, rather than being a Sayadina, Chani kind of seems to be the main representation of the Feda Keen in the film. She's a death commando. Yeah, she's I don't know. They've made Chani kind of hard in one way and taken an awful lot away from her character, and in particular the very ending where she kind of heads off into the desert. It's basically the whole marriage thing which she is involved in quite a bit, and she's kind of seems to be kept out of it. If you see what I mean, the whole Paul marrying Irulan and how Jessica and Chani would handle that thing is handled differently. It really is. It hits you in the characters. I think that's as much. There's set action pieces. Certain things have to happen. I think I really do think the characterization in the film is really weak. And it's interesting because I think it's one of the big strengths of Frank Herbert's Dune, isn't it? And we've kind of said that really, if you think about Paul and Jessica, are really the only main characters in the book, but everyone else is kind of almost on equal footing. If you see what I mean, even the minor characters are really important. And in the first film, I thought that Mapes was wasted completely. And I thought that the character of Jamis was done wrong. And those are the first two characters that you kind of sort of meet the Fremen through, if you like. I think the whole Liet Kynes thing was an absolute debacle. And it still makes me laugh at how stupid it was and how important it is to the story, if you see what I mean. And the way that Paul and Chani kind of should have bonded was over the loss of their mutual fathers. There's just, I think that the film kind of ends up with almost as many loose ends as Frank might have thrown out there. Probably more so, I think. It's funny how you try to pick apart a wee thing like this, isn't it? But let's just see. Brandon Craig says, if they wanted to show a transformation in Jessica, they should have done more during her water of life scene to at least explain it, but they didn't. I'm left making apologies for it using material I know from the book, but not addressed in the movie. Deb Karen says, Jessica felt like she was low-key abomination. Thought perhaps that's why she beforehand implies she has no idea how different the ritual might be in the Fremen version. I liked how much Jamis showed up because I had people argue he wouldn't even be mentioned again. And then he's lying there packed up in the opening in the middle of an action scene. Yes, indeed. Interesting to see. And of course, they went through the whole thing with the Jamis's burial. There's some wee interesting things. I think the details of Fremen life, some things that they did are quite good. I think one of them, and it comes down to the water of life thing and stuff like that. One of the things that's massively missing from this film, I think, is particularly part two, and I'd have to have a look at part one again. Symbolism. The symbolism of it all, the mysticism of it all, the hand, all of that, the mystique. That's the word I'm looking for. The mystique is missing, and almost that magical aspect of Paul Atreides that the Fremen might look for, I suppose. I think Chani's character kind of almost blurts out stuff for us to kind of know that, oh, this is a religion sown here by the Bene Gesserit. It's this kind of thing. There's a kind of almost sectarian aspect to the Fremen as well through this, that you kind of have northern Fremen and southern Fremen, as opposed to a distinction between sort of Fremen of Siege and Fremen of Pan and Graben, if you know what I mean. And I think really that they run with the Fremen of the South are superstitious yokels, and the Fremen of the North are more rational, like Chani, this kind of thing. Which I didn't really particularly like either, I suppose. There's just some of the stuff that they did change, they made changes to. I can't see the logical change in it. If you see what I mean, some of the qualms maybe about acting, maybe about the role. Let's see, I'll tell you what, who will we look at next? The Emperor as a character, for example, Christopher Walken. I mean, well, he's a tip-top actor, you know what I mean? Just A, wasted, and B, just being himself, and B, C, miscast badly. And I think it's through characters like where we get these characters wrong. Now, they've done this with the other versions of Dune, but the one thing I got from this version is that you could, how would I put it? You don't really get to see any of the effects of melange or the importance of melange, or why is everybody fighting over melange? What's it worth? Apart from affecting Paul. Here's the Emperor who's got tons of this stuff, and it's supposed to make him be young. If you see what I mean, he's not meant to look like that. It's one of the benefits of this drug. I actually thought the aspects of the drug, the whole, all of the ecology of it, a lot of it was gone. Some of it's there. A little bit of it storing the water, etc., this kind of thing. But I thought really just had been stripped down of all messages. The Emperor kind of just was Christopher Walken doing his bit, and even at the kind of the end where he, basically has to kiss Paul's ring. I think he missed. And I was kind of wondering, you have to wonder about American sort of, Hollywood studios and stuff like that. There's a message in here? The other thing with the Fremen is that within the language of the film, I suppose a lot of the Arabic sort of phrases, etc., are gone, but we have particular phrases within the film. Jihad is out, pretty much. Crusade is in, but the new buzzword within the film is fundamentalists. Particularly referring to religious aspects of the Fremen, that the Fremen talk about. It's a sectarian thing. They're fundamentalists. We're not, this kind of thing. And I think it's language that mainly comes from Chani. But I was wondering, was the Emperor being old and frail and about not being able to kiss the ring kind of comment on American politics or something like that? But I'm going to say that the two biggest things for me, or I thought the Baron was pathetic. Worst Baron ever. What a waste of a character. What a waste of an actor. Because the actor was looking pretty good. Pretty menacing. With what he's got, he does a great job. But what a waste. And it goes hand in hand with the loss of Piter, really, the waste of that actor, the waste of that role. The Baron is so much more. And you kind of get the sense that he's afraid of Fade in this film. And the Baron's ending is pathetic. It's just annoyed me, and his behaviour annoyed me, and I felt that it was out of character. Because the Baron, the one thing that the Baron knows is he'll not sit on the throne. And that the word that I wrote down to describe him, and I actually thought that I think they might have made him possibly. I'm not too sure about his uh, sex slaves within his quarters that he murders, but I kind of thought that they were female. Um, and if that's the case, that they've just made him basically a fat heterosexual. Um, but yeah, I just thought that what a waste of a character, what a waste of an actor, and the first film he mumbled a lot, and I thought it was a very obvious, almost kind of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Impersonation of Marlon Brando being Colonel Kurtz. You know, the whole, this kind of thing, and apocalypse now, etc., etc. And I find the Baron not even remotely intimidating whatsoever. I just thought he was a fat guy. Uh, I find him, nothing about him scary, nothing about him intelligent, intellectual, etc. He's a real brain on him for as a character. There's real fears to him. He's a really well fleshed out villain, I think, and I think it's partly this kind of desire not to present basically a, how do you want to put it, a fat, disabled, homosexual paedophile on screen as a villain, But I thought he was pathetic, and I kind of felt a bit robbed of his death. I thought, and I was kind of, one thing that I was looking forward to was Ali, and seeing Ali in the film. So Ali has just been, we're not even going to bother with this. How do we deal with this? 3-4 year old Reverend Mother, this little girl, and the answer is we'll just pretend that she's not in it, and I suppose we just deal with it. She's not even born in the film. And I you see, it's the thing that Frank does so well in the book is if Chani has one chapter where Chani's just the queen of the universe. Chani's amazing. We get to see Chani really do her thing. Ali is the same. If you know, what I mean, a lot of the characters, they get one chapter to shine. Um, yeah. So I don't know. The changes, as I said, will probably be a bit of an affront to serious Dune fans. They're not necessary, and I think it's more kind of, I don't know. I think it does have some sensibilities for the modern generation, if you like, but it's Dune defanged in many ways. I think is the best way to look at it. It's been defanged of most of its themes, been defanged of its author's intent, I think, and I think it's been slightly disrespectful. I think, well, the whole film production as a whole, I think, has been a wee bit disrespectful to Frank Herbert in certain comments that they've made that I think just come across as being woke, if you see what I mean, But it's a pity because these are Chani's pretty the Emperor, whenever he is there, he's interested. These characters are built up in the background in the book, but the Baron is a great character, and the interplay between Baron and Fade, and Piter initially, and then Baron, Fade, and Raban, etc. I think you got a fair bit of that on Gidi Prime in the film. I thought that was kind of interesting. Gidi Prime, though, has an orange sun, as far as I know. I was never Black Suns. What's that about? Cult of the Black Sun, this kind of thing. I think it's sort of meant to give kind of fascist overtones, isn't it? This kind of thing. Let's just look that up. Cult of the Black Sun, all this kind of thing. Kind of, is it Nazi stuff, Lovecraftian, esoteric Nazism, that kind of nonsense? It's probably the association that they're trying to give with the Harkonnens there, But yeah, I thought Jessica's character was. I thought they'd weakened the character a little bit in the first book, in the first film. Sorry, Jessica's character just was a bit demented and ran around barking at Fremen and controlling, setting things up for Paul, but being very much a control freak, if you see what I mean. Not even manipulating, not being subtle in any way. I think she was like a blunt force trauma really within the film. And of course, that's how the Baron meets his end is kind of not particularly good. I didn't find it particularly satisfying. And I suppose then there's the end of the film as well, which is setting up the jihad, etc. But the last lines kind of the film are a bit, what's going on here, you know? I'll check in with your comments here, folks. I'm probably wandering about a bit, but if anybody wants to ask me anything about it, let me know. Well, I think that's the bulk of the major quibbles, really. It's the characters. It's for me, and a couple of characters were elevated. If you see what I mean, I think Raban came out of it quite well. I think Fade came out of it quite well. I think Paul's character had the right kind of development in the story, if you see what I mean. And Stilgar was kind of well, but I kept looking at Stilgar thinking he's just too big to be, you know, he's far too water fat. But he was good. And I thought the way the Fremen were portrayed, it's, for example, I think you know, I thought the look of it was good. I think much more so. I still think Arakeen looked like crap. You know, looked like it'd been built with a cheap Lego set or something. The other biggest criticism, I'll go with this before I look at your comments, folks, is that if this film, and I tend to think of the first film as maybe a bit of a COVID movie, but if this was filmed out in these beautiful deserts where they shot Lawrence of Arabia and stuff like this, it doesn't come across like it. You know, I still got the sense that this film could have been filmed with a large sand pit. Didn't really get the sense of the majesty of the desert, that kind of thing, you know. But let's have a wee look at your comments. But regardless of that, that's my major quibbles with the film, folks. In terms of it being a movie, I did enjoy it. It's a little bit too long. I had to go to the loo once, missed about 3-4 minutes of the movie, as always. I was sort of saying to the wife, the last time I think I threw up twice, fell asleep twice, and it was a bit of a day. This time I went to the bathroom once, and nearly nodded off once, but apart from that, I had a good time at the cinema, and I enjoyed this, and I'd actually go back to the movies and watch it again, just to take it all in. But it was visually very impressive for a sci-fi film, if you like, for Dune. And what dialogue? I think the dialogue was very simplified. It just wasn't as clever, if you see what I mean. I thought it was quite a very dumbed down version of Dune, but in a good way, and it's different. And so I suppose it's okay to present stories in different ways to people, if you like. And if it's something like this brings it to mass attention, then maybe it'll send more people to the books, and they'll realize actually how much they've been shortchanged, I think, by the film. But I think films aren't the right medium for this. For books over a certain size, anything over a certain weight, I think anything over a standard paperback size, it's TV is where you need to be, you know. And to think that the other thing, one other thing is in terms of what they've thrown out of the story, it's the total length of part 1 and part 2, and the reasons. We'll cut this for time. If you check out the miniseries, you'll see that it comes in shorter, and they're able to get all sorts of things in. So it's economy of language, economy of scenes, and things like this within a particular adaptation. But you could have to abandon a whole chunk of themes and just chuck them out the window. The problems that you would have with this is that it's going to affect things on down the line. And if Denis Villeneuve goes for Dune Messiah now, it's going to have to be adapted from what he's done here, because he's made a right mess of things already, if you see what I mean. Even consequences with late kinds and things like that way down the books. All of this stuff is all intertwined and goes all the way down into the books. You see, you tweak something within Dune and you cause problems. And I think that's the problem for Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, is that whenever they do move into Frank Herbert's Dune universe, whenever they write stuff into this world, that particularly within the gaps and things like that, you see that something like this within the new Lord of the Rings TV series, is that you end up causing feedback loops, positive and negative, that mess with the original story, you know. Let's catch up with your comments, folks. Let's see. But Brandon was saying I've been left making apologies for it, using material I know for the book from the book, but not addressed in the movie. Jessica felt like she's a low-key abomination. Says I've read this one before, but just to go over it again, thought perhaps that's why she beforehand implies that she's no idea how different the ritual might be in the Fremen version. Yeah, it's I think it's more to do with variants and drugs, isn't it? But yeah, I did not like the Water of Life ritual. It didn't seem spice agony, if you like. Um, we got to sort of see the physical agony, but I don't know. It was yeah, it was kind of quite violent, wasn't it? In some ways. Except for I liked how much Chama showed up because I had people argue he wouldn't even be mentioned again. That's and he's lying there, picked up in the opening in the middle of an action scene. That's right. Except for he gets like one chapter to actually appear in it, and he doesn't get to shine. And yeah, he and yeah, I mean, Raban sort of sneaks into things like the appendices and stuff like that. You know, looks artistic. It looks artistic as fuck. Now I really should go to sleep. Good night. Yeah, it's a beautiful film. Yeah, it's done really well. It's a thing for and I think on the back of the part one, the two films together, you know, you've got a decent enough movie. It's lengthy, but I certainly have considering part one and all the gripes that I had with part one, and I think the gripes of part one are the same gripes. And we get to see that kind, you know, the harm done to. Really, it's the characters, the sense of what the book tries to teach us. And I suppose it's interesting in terms of when a filmmaker makes an adaptation like this, that what they carve out and what they reinforce. Kind of, I wonder what that teaches us about them and the filmmaking process and what they want a new audience to see from a book, or more importantly, what they don't want you to see or what they think you shouldn't be able to see. This kind of thing. But I think at the heart of the film is a desire to keep it within a certain certificate, if you like, to make it as appealing to as many people as possible. And that's why we've got, you know, the Baron is just a very basic, simple character. Um, the Emperor is the same. He's bare bones. You know, Irulan, not too much to do with her anyway. And again, I thought Irulan was very American, and it's just that the actresses that played Chani and Irulan, their accents stuck out like a sore thumb. For me in the film, you know, I just thought it was a bit odd, you know. And oh, I suppose there's another thing there. There we go. Is that another change that's made to things like that is that it's that the Emperor's plan has become the Bene Gesserit plan. This kind of thing. But overall, I thought that, you know, I thought that I was inhabiting Frank Herbert's, you know, Dune universe. Um, you know, and it moved. I'll tell you what, the pacing was a lot better. It moved. It was a lot. You know, the time went by pretty easily in the cinema. If you see what I mean, it wasn't a drag. And once the ending came, you know, I thought Paul looking at the nukes as they go off. I was going, well, hope, you know, wouldn't he be blind there? But I thought the whole, you know, the Battle of Arrakeen with the Sardaukar, I thought that was pretty good, and it went as speedily, kind of as you kind of thought. It had good energy to it. Um, but yeah, it was, you know, missing Alia being missing from the film really kind of that kicked it. That was a bit of a kick in the teeth for me. But the worst thing for me was the demise of the Baron. And I particularly enjoyed getting to see a lot of the intrigue with the Baron on Giri Prime, how Giri Prime looked. I thought was quite interesting. The whole gladiatorial thing with Fade. There's bits of it missing, but we got to see some action that kind of would be hinted at in the book, etc. But I really am just I was the Baron should be an absolute really intelligent nutter, you know, very clever, you know, fast thinking. Um, And yeah, they made it kind of as if he was kind of reaching for the throne. That's kind of, and I didn't think it was right. No, it's the things that they've done to the characters, I think, are the worst. And I think that this is the real problem for me, is that they are strong characters, and I don't think that they've been rewritten in any way that's better. I think they've been rewritten in a way that's to the character's detriment and to the film's detriment, and I actually think to the actor or actress that's playing those roles. Um, you know, this film's a big spectacle movie, isn't it? It's a big blockbuster. You've got a level of some actors on a certain level and a whole bunch of unknowns, I suppose, within it. But in all honesty, that there's nobody that really comes across with Javier Bardem. I thought was quite good, but nobody comes across with really just totally or owning this role, any of these roles within this film. If you see what I mean. I haven't come away from it going, Timothée Chalamet, he's the Paul Atreides for me. He nailed it. He's the best ever. I didn't get that. I didn't get Christopher Walken being, wow, he really nailed the Emperor. He'll be that in my mind from now on. It's Fade. I think the actor that, I don't know what you call the actor. Sorry, that played Fade. Oh wait, hang on. Let's see. Austin Butler. Yeah, there we go. I thought he was very good. But no, I'd almost say that there's not I don't think there's an actor that came out of this film really owning that role, if you see what I mean. I think Stilgar was, Javier Bardem was pretty good as Stilgar. And Austin Butler was very good as Fade. Even Charlotte Rampling, he's a pretty good actress. I think was kind of wasted the way Mohiam was portrayed. It's just all the characters are diminished on screen. I think all of them. I don't think than they are in the books. They're not improved upon, and that for me was a shame, because it's one of the big things about the book. I think is what fascinates us about it. It's not just the world that they inhabit; it's the people that they are. The characters. They're cracking characters. They really are. That's the thing. The other thing I was kind of saying to my wife about this is that as much as people go, this is the masterpiece, this is etc. etc. Dune is Frank Herbert's magnum opus. It's his great work. It's his masterpiece. I think whenever you decide to rewrite someone else's work that's considered so well, it's like trying to rewrite Shakespeare, this kind of thing. You're not going to do well out of it, are you? Because Dune is that well written. It's to say, "Oh, let's change this." I don't think the author did a good job, or here I disagree. Particularly as someone who analyzes the hell out of Frank's writing, I think he does a very good job. I think there's something a little bit of hubristic in it. And in particular, I think the characters, I think that they got particularly badly wrong in the first one. I thought they got Leto Atreides badly wrong. I think but that's my major gripe, folks. It's as Carol was saying, though, he's off to see it again, and Joseph's going to see it. I didn't get to see it in IMAX. The screen I saw on was 10 times better than the thing I saw on the last time. I swear we didn't even have the film in focus properly at the first time I went to see Dune Part 1. But it was a much better experience. I did enjoy it, and it's got me thinking, and I'm kind of wondering, why did you do that? It could have been a masterpiece, is kind of where I'm at. It really could have been, and where it's fallen down. And I think the other thing I caught Denis Villeneuve not wanting to try and do things that other people have done within the Dune universe, if you like, kind of leaves him at a major disadvantage. But I heard him talking about that he doesn't like dialogue, that he hates it, and that he really does think very much in terms of a visual way. And that's kind of Denis Villeneuve's problem, isn't it? And if I was actually thinking, as much as he's a very visual director, and I understand his strengths, etc., and why people think he's so good. His real weakness, and it's a big weakness, is actors and characterization. Um, and I've seen a few of his films now, but it's most notable here. Um, I think that there's even scenes that feel, between actors in the first one, particularly when Liet Kynes meets Leto in the gang. I thought that felt forced, didn't feel right, didn't feel natural, um, and it just didn't seem right. And what aspects? I suppose it's like reducing the characters to characterizations almost. It's like they're caricatures. And as much as people say if cinema is a visual medium, very briefly, but it's always been a oral and visual medium, and dialogue, how characters interact, all of that kind of thing. It's very important, and I was just wondering, is it maybe because Denis Villeneuve doesn't have any? I don't know if this is true or not, but I don't know if he has any um, history with working with the theatre or something like that. But how a lot of Dune is set up is quite Shakespearean. How the scenes are set up in the different chapters would easily mimic stuff that you would do within Shakespearean theatre, Jacobean theatre, this kind of thing. And particularly how you deal with characters, the way you manage dialogue in a play, for example, particularly inner dialogue. For something like Dune, I think that's its weakness. It's fallen down on its dialogue, its characterizations, and the use of characters and language. It's broken them down to being quite simplistic, I think, and it has more effect, I think, maybe to me than maybe to some people, because the other thing is that these characters are kind of archetypes. A lot of them, aren't they? And they're paired in many ways within the book deliberately. One of the wee things I thought was interesting in the film is that they present Fade Routher with his knives. And if you know about the two knives in the book, the one's black and one's white, and which one's got the poison on it, and he's holding up licking the knife with the tongue and then slices again. It's not really explained why they're killing people, but that's stuff that's in the book, I suppose, within the Giddy Prime thing. For Margot Fenring to appear, no sign of Hazimir, and again, I'm pretty sure I saw her in the end in the crowd when Paul takes over. The other wee thing I think was that, and I might not be remembering this correctly, but it ends pretty much with all the houses of the Landsrat up above in orbit, telling Paul and Gurney, etc., and Stilgar that they don't acknowledge him as the Emperor, and this is basically the beginning of the jihad. The film, ends this way, and I think his last words are something like, "Stilgar, I think it's lead them to paradise," which seemed quite sinister. But I don't know. You didn't get too much of, I think, of the sense of the change in Paul. You don't quite, and I don't think you should. There's little things within Dune that you should pick up upon if you notice them. But he's not quite our super monster yet, if you like. But I don't know. In terms of faithfulness to the book, I'd say it's, if I have to, just say give it a review. Faithfulness to the book, I'd probably go 4 out of 10. And I would definitely say the least faithful adaptation by far. And I don't mean it's not by what action it shows. I mean by the author's intent and what he tried to do with the book and how the characters are and how they behave, etc. I'd say it's the least faithful. I give it a 4 out of 10 for that. As a film, to go and enjoy it, something on a Friday afternoon, put your feet up and spend a few hours. I thought it was excellent. It was pretty good. And I was wondering about this because is it simply the fact that there's so much crap out there these days? But overall, I'd give it a 7 or 8 out of 10, which is higher than I think I gave the first one a 6, maybe a 5. But well, actually, I know I gave it a 1 for the cinematic experience, but whenever I've seen it properly, I think I gave it a 5 or 6. I'd give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's flawed. There's still problems with the sound and stuff. And I also think you got virtually no sense of melange at all. No sense of melange, no sense of the mystique, or the imagery or the symbols of the Dune universe, if you like. Or if you did, they were maybe more subtle than I thought. But the characters is what it didn't ruin it for me. I went with it. This is It's Denis Villeneuve's Dune. It's not Frank Herbert's Dune. But going with it and keeping an open mind and just going, well, we're not going to see, it's not going to be perfect. Let's just go with and see how this man has dealt with this. I enjoyed it. I didn't think that certain things needed to be that way. When I've heard them explained, I thought, well, no, that doesn't make sense at all now. And I think it's just sort of, sometimes it's rewriting stuff to, I don't know, see if you can maybe try to match the zeitgeist or something like that, or maybe just to get your 10 cents worth in as a writer. But it's enjoyable enough, folks. I would happily go and see it again. And I'm still trying to figure out, if I put the two films together, I'd maybe go somewhere half in between. I'd maybe go, if Dune Part 1 and 2 as a singular film, I think I might give it a 6.5. The whole thing, maybe a 7. I think I'd be straying towards 6.5, but that's what I think of it. I have to say, I just thought I'd come on and let you know my thoughts. I thought I wouldn't do a proper video or anything like that, but it'd be nice to sort of check in and chat and say hello. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy it, Joseph. I got to take my youngest to see the 84 version in theatre. It was a great time. Excellent. Okay, I got to go before I decide not to watch it. No, go check it out. This really feels like a slam on us Dune fans so far. I'll check back in on you after I watch it. Be well. Excellent, Joseph. Open mind, enjoy it. Just, and then think about it afterwards. But I hope you have a good time at the pictures. But there you go. I don't know if anybody else out there has seen it or not, or what you think. I don't know if you agree with me. It's just personal. To this day, I love watching the David Lynch version of Dune. I love watching the Dune miniseries. And I suppose some people have pointed out rather incorrectly that the Children of Dune is the next miniseries and that they haven't covered Dune Messiah. Children of Dune miniseries is Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. It's just got one title, and it's highly rewatchable and very well done. And I think, in all honesty, each version of Dune has brought its own thing to the table, really, hasn't it? It's David Lynch really went with the hero, but the mystique and the mysticism and the weird of Dune. Really, I think his approach to the characters would have been useful for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. The characters have almost everybody in David Lynch's every actor in David Lynch's Dune has. It's just they don't have much screen time. It's what they do with it is incredible. The particular quotations that they use, the particular speech selected from the book for its poignancy, for its punch, its power, and it has a kind of sense of the operatic. If you see what I mean, it's all very grandiose, but the characters are, I don't know, there is something mythical about it, which it in that sense that it should have that sense, if you like. I thought the TV miniseries, both of them were great. They had real problems keeping the same actors in roles, which was a shame. And the special effects were what they were for the time, and I think because of that, it'll look pretty bad against something like, Denis Villeneuve's Dune these days. Again, it's all about, how well does it look on the screen, but I suppose the limitations of how you made films for both the TV series and the films were different back then. But I think they're both very good attempts. I still think that the TV miniseries is by far the most faithful adaptation of Dune, and shows that you need time to do it, but you can adapt Dune, and you can do it in an intelligent way and not consider your audience not smart enough to get this. I think sometimes that's what I get from this version of Dune. we're going to create, and you've always heard this from way back, is that Dune is for, and nothing to do with nothing. I've never said this, but it's Dune is Star Wars for smart people. And I always thought that was a disservice to everybody involved in that sentence. Dune fans, Star Wars fans, filmmaker, everybody, you know. And Dune is a clever book, and it's a book that anyone can read. And I think it's a book that educates its readers. And I think even David Lynch's version, and he even tried to sort of run with certain things. And I think they're all very good so far. I think, but this, in terms of spectacle and big screen entertainment, cinematic, chops, all of this kind of thing, I think this one will take its place. It's reasonably faithful to the story, but it's not faithful to the characters. It's not faithful to the characters' intentions, and it's not faithful at all to the author's intentions of what he does with these characters and what the author wanted them to teach us. And probably the most of all of the characters that they did mess with, the only one that they really shouldn't have, in terms of what it means and how it intertwines with everything, is the Liet Kynes character. I think they've made a terrible, terrible mistake there. An attempt at feminism by two men, I think, who got it wrong, as we pointed out. But because of that, because the ecological message is missing, it doesn't matter. I suppose it's always hard to get a sense of the evolutionary. So the dangerous hero is the one thing that you would run with, I think, in Dune. Excuse me. But I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it, folks. And I'm going to wrap up. I don't know if anybody's got any wee comments or anything, or if you wanted, anybody who's seen it, tell me if you liked it or not. Clearly, it's coming from a sort of criticism from the book, if you like, and enjoying the book and knowing what these characters are like. But I think there's so much more than what's on the screen, and that's my real sadness, I think, for this film, is because we're all looking forward to it, and I'm glad that it's been a few years going through this, hasn't it? My real sadness about it is that Denis Villeneuve couldn't have maintained that cracking characterization, if you see what I mean, with the spectacle and the vision that the how do I put it, the great strengths that he has as a filmmaker. The weaknesses here are obvious, and it's a real shame that we have these characters on the screen and they're not as huge as they should be. The Baron should be absolutely, the things you could do with the Baron as an actor, and with the proper script, but it's just a waste. And the Biter and Piter going at each other, these pair of psychos. They're very clever nutters, and the way they work off each other is there's a lot there. And I still think, particularly even the banquet scene was the thing that threw out the ecological message. This book's famous for a reason, and my other big kind of gripe about it is, I suppose, that the idea of making these changes to this book, where we don't consider the book worthy of our time, that it's a product of its past, our past, this kind of thing. Dune is a product of its time, if you like, but it's a set of books that were written over decades and have been incredibly well considered, and they're warning about a future that's coming, and they come from a time when that future is now. Dune is more relevant right now than it ever has been. It's incredible how relevant Dune is now, and particularly with the political, economic, and ecological, sort of things that are going on in the world. It couldn't be more relevant, its warnings, and it comes from a time where there's a bulk of not just sort of fictional literature, but factual work about, we've all heard about the warnings, 50 years, or temperature is going to rise, all this stuff, and here we are. And you can read this book and see these things in the world. You can see the hydraulic despotism. You can see it out. It's on the news. You can see how people worship politicians. Pardon me, the cult of personality and how utterly dangerous that is. And even to a degree, you see a little bit of it in a sense that's meta with this film and with Denis Villeneuve. People are talking about this movie as it's saved cinema. It's a savior. It's a messiah almost. And there's certainly a bit of cult of personality and hero worship around the director as well. I think it's interesting for someone like me to watch. But I think he's done a great job in the movie. I don't think he's got the book properly at all. And I think the biggest failure of it, if you can call it that, but where it fails for me, and it doesn't fail, it's like where it's let down, let's put it that way, is through the characters. They're either not right, or they're just not there, you know. And yeah, one of the things that was appalling me when Dune Part 1 came out was the amount of people who were kind of using Leto the First as a kind of Leto the First, that's been great for Father's Day cards, this kind of thing, and that he ended up being sort of propped up as this great dad or something, which if you read the book, he's not. He's him and the Baron are exactly the same. Thufir Howard just gone. I was just wondering. I just thought that actor must be gutted. But where's Thufir? And Thufir's kind of important in the sense he's a prisoner. He's an insight into what's going on in Guinea Prime. From the Atreides point of view, and again, I'm not quite knowing what's right and what's wrong, this kind of thing. But there you go, folks. But no, it was enjoyable. I hope for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I know that everybody's got their spoilers up, spoiler free. That's why I'm a little bit late. It only came out here on the 1st. And I saw it yesterday. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but I've got my quibbles about it, and I think it's a shame. I think if Denis Villeneuve could have got these characters right and stopped worrying about kind of cutting stuff out from the book and trying to make it more relevant, this kind of nonsense. But so maybe it's just all about chasing that kind of PG 12A, is that what it is? That certificate for that audience, and ultimately the thing is guided by money, isn't it? That's where it comes to it. But I think if he had gotten that right, he could have had a 10 out of 10 movie here. He really could have had a masterpiece. But it is flawed, and it's a real sadness for me. I just think this: if you know the characters, you know that they're pale shadows of themselves. Some of them are not even right. And little things that happen there. As I said, even Gurney Halleck getting his revenge on Raban. Well, we all, if we know the book, we know why he wants his revenge. If we change that from the book, surely that would be satisfying. And this is to kill Raban, knowing that Raban's killed his sister. To kill Raban, and as Raban's dying, going, "This is for the Duke," plus some friends. It's kind of, that's what he says. And you kind of go, shit, he mustn't have thought too much of his sister. I get why they changed it. They changed it for the wrong reason. And what they should have done was, personally, if I had written that scene, that would have been, "This is for my sister, you son of a bitch," and for my Duke. And I thought the sister would have had priority over the Duke. Which maybe says something more about Gurney Halleck. I don't know. But that's kind of one of those things that didn't make sense. That the change, I could understand making the change, but then you've changed it to something that there was a logical place to go with that change. Does that make sense? And that fitted and suited the character and was part of the story, and you just went, "I'll just make something up," I remember when directors cared more about making great movies than trying to please everyone. But you can't please everybody all the time, isn't that what they say? It's a good point, Cara. I think with the obvious comparisons with Dune, I suppose, will be to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and you certainly got a sense that with Lord of the Rings, as they started, they wanted to be as faithful as possible to Tolkien's work, to keep, the language, the dialogue, all of it. But the further they got into the films, the more and more. Where was your tut moment in the Lord of the Rings? For me, it was when Legolas slid down some elephant's trunk on a shield or something, just went surfing, and I thought the Fellowship of the Ring was great. I thought the Two Towers, but the third film to me was, I kind of was thinking, this isn't really J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. This is Peter Jackson's. And then whenever the Hobbit came out, saying that Tolkien's name had been flung off it, and it was now Peter Jackson's The Hobbit, I don't like that. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of have a thing about adaptations. I'm not a fan of them. And Hollywood kind of has, I suppose, an adaptation, if you want, is a legal rewriting of someone else's work to make it presentable in a different medium. And there's a history in filmmaking, goes back to things like Nosferatu, for example, stealing pretty much Dracula. And I've never been, to be honest with you, I've never been a total fan of the Hollywood. Hollywood's just over, I don't know, it's just over 100 years old. The whole industry, this kind of thing. About a century of the movie industry. I'm taking books and plays, etc., and mucking around with them. It's never been I don't know. Sometimes it hurts the source material, sometimes it doesn't. If you see what I mean. But I was quite appalled by Peter Jackson's The Hobbit. That began I started falling asleep in those films. But I just thought The Hobbit was a very tight novel, and one film could have done, but just to extend it into the histories of the Middle Earth and rewrite this and do that. And I just kind of go, it's not that person's work anymore. It depends on, sometimes when you take, and adapt things, sometimes it works out really well, but it's seldom that you have something that's, as good as the original product, I think. And you can either try to do something completely different with it, that it inspires you or something, or go for it and try to be as realistic and honourable to it as you can. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of people that were talking an awful lot about lore in various films and TV shows, etc., where it's mucked around with, but nobody seems to be too bothered with it being mucked around with here. But that's probably because, again, the Dune universe has been mucked around with for quite some time. There's Soupbot saying, "Sup, y'all? I'll catch the VOD." How you doing, Soupbot? You keeping well? We're just sort of discussing what we thought of the new Dune movie, and I just sort of popped on to do that, and I was saying that I suppose as well with the book club, I hadn't been on last week because I'd hurt myself quite bad and I was in a fair amount of pain. So we just kind of went with it, not doing it, and but we'll back up with the Dune book club next week, folks, on Thursday as usual. The work's all done, by the way, so it was all done for last week actually, but I was just in too much pain. Really did a number on my shoulder. It's going to be an interesting wee chapter actually. It might be interesting in consideration of the film as well. But yeah, interesting. Yeah. Don't know. Have you seen the film yet, Soupbot? Just wondering what you think. I don't know. Carlos, what you were saying, I think the ones that spring to mind that I think are really good adaptations that differ considerably than the books. Blade Runner would have to be one. The idea is there, isn't it? But there's not a lot of what's left from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep in that film. One that I particularly like, goodness, we're doing it's Philip K. Dick land, isn't it? It's Total Recall is I love Total Recall. I actually still like the short story We Can Remember For You Wholesale. I think is much more satisfying. I like it better, but they're different animals, but they're the same thing, if you like. But the conversation about Total Recall feeds by, is he a spy? If you know the story, I think the ending's more fun. But I don't know. talking about science fiction masterpieces, is Dune Part Two a masterpiece? It's not. It's a really good film, but what makes a masterpiece? What hyperbolic terms like this tend to be used quite a lot. Everyone's a genius, everyone's a master, every piece of work's a masterpiece, or this kind of thing. And I don't know, but particularly for a film, I think it has to really, really slap you in the face in some kind of way that just something about a movie that strikes you in such a way. It doesn't happen very often. The last film that I watched that smacked the living hell out of me, just kind of went, Jesus, what did I just watch? Fucking hell. That was wow. And it was hard to be a god by Alexei German, or I'm sorry, I believe it's pronounced German, Alexei German. I mean, I'll just bring it up here on. I'll get you the date, but it was myself. It's a 2013 film. Myself and my wife watched it over 3 hours over 3 nights. And it's just incredible. Epic medieval sci-fi film, Russian, directed by Alexei German, who co-wrote the screenplay with Svetlana Karmelita. It was his last film and is based on the 1964 novel of the same name by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, the fabulous Strugatsky brothers. It's just incredible. You're mesmerizing, appalling, weird, scary. What the hell is this? And if you've read the book, which I had, I'd read the book and my wife hadn't at that time. She still hasn't read it. The wife's tearing through Strange in a Strange Land at the minute and enjoying it. But we both loved the film. Both of us neither have seen it. And it was 3 hours long, I think. And the way we watched it is we agreed we watched it for an hour and then we stopped because we just were absorbed that much in it. And then we watched the next hour the next night and just took our time watching it. And if anybody hasn't seen it, go watch that and tell me you're not watching a masterpiece. And that what qualities does that film have? Something like Dune Part 2 doesn't have them. I'm afraid it's a really good film. I enjoyed it. And as a standalone, if you've never read Dune, I think you'll probably find the whole thing very satisfying and enjoyable. But if you have read Dune, if you're not that bothered about Dune, I think you'll enjoy it a lot as well. If you're really into your Dune, I think you'll take a few kicks to the teeth. To be honest with you, but it's just a movie. Carlos said Lucas basically did the same as Star Wars, but at least had the common decency to change the name. There was one of the commentaries that came out there on YouTube was talking about it, that Star Wars was a colossal rip-off of Dune. It was kind of from the Frank Herbert point of view of that. And it's a hodgepodge, isn't it? You can't really say that. Yeah, he ripped up. There's stuff from Dune and Star Wars, stuff from everything in Star Wars, and it's almost an attempt to make that ultimate, oddly enough, science fiction film, but it's not. It's a sci fantasy, isn't it? It's a fantasy. But goodness, the things. Yeah, if you're a big fan of science fiction. Well read in the science fiction, all of it, going, the kind of H.G. Wells stuff, all of that, the magazine era stuff, the Doc Smith stuff, that kind of thing. Star Wars is full of it. And then if you've ever seen Hidden Fortress, Han Solo is Rocky Rito. It's what the hell? It's the same film. It's but it's still an original story. And he hasn't just ripped it off. He's taken shades of this, pieces of that. And Frank Herbert did exactly the same thing. In fact, I think we've concretely proved that Frank has pilfered a fair amount of stuff from other people's work. There's a whole lot of Greek mythology writings of this kind of thing. There's at least 2 or 3 novels where you've kind of got the action overlaid from Dune in it, and of course, all of the great ideas are not Frank's. the big ideas in Dune are mostly Samuel Butler's. I always think that that's kind of interesting if you go back to the whole collective unconscious thing. That's that you get with Carl Jung. That's not his idea either. It's look at the dates, and you'll find that it's Butler's. Butler's the guy that comes up with the idea. But it's the same thing within science fiction. Sometimes one author will come up with an idea, and it changes the game, changes the altogether. I'll tell you what it was. This might be of interest to you. Is that I've just finished a story. I'm sure as we've been going through with the Dune Messiah book club, that I'm reading the Tales of a Thousand Night and One Night at the moment, or otherwise known as the Arabian Nights. And I've just finished the story which is entitled The Sleeper That Awakens. And it was very, very funny. And I keep, as I've been, I think as I was saying to you, as we've been reading Dune Messiah, I keep finding little parallels, little things, odd, even just character names or something from little interesting things that appear in the 1001 Nights that also are appearing in Dune Messiah. There's chunks of what was it they say? There's a bad writer steal, good writers borrow, something like that, I think. But it's as long as you can do, something. So it's about being inspired, isn't it? And Lucas didn't rip off. He had his ideas and he kind of tried to do his own versions of them. THX 1138. It's very, it's kind of almost a hybrid of the great dystopian novels, isn't it? It's kind of a hybrid of 1984 and We and Brave New World, these kind of things. But it's still his own thing, and Star Wars is still his own thing. And I suppose the interesting thing with that is, again, just using similar source material. Just interestingly enough, the reason why I was off 2 weeks ago, folks, was because it was my birthday, and I took a bit of time off. The reason why I was off last week was because I was in agony. I managed to have a good birthday, and then a totally pain-free birthday was the next day I woke up in agony. But so my birthday presents for this year, just for a bit of fun, my son got me guitar strings. Thanks, Matt. But I got book token. As usual, my opportunity to buy books tends to come with tokens. And oddly enough, I think I was saying about books that I used to have a lot of. I used to have a much bigger library than I do now. I got an awful lot of books destroyed in a house, kind of with a damp had rotted through into the bookcases. I was renting down in Portstewart. And anyway, I lost a lot of books, and sometimes I go to talk about a book that I used to have, and kind of my memory looks over there and it's not there. So with my book token, I just thought I'd show you what I picked up. None of these are new books for me. Just why we're having an natter, because we always do all things science fiction. But just to replace, because my wife's chatting about one. So goodness knows how many copies of this I've had. This is a book I give away a lot. For some reason, I keep buying it to have another copy. But if anybody, science fiction royalty here, Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. Love it. That's a thing we've got to make a video on. And of course, I definitely know that just in terms of going dystopias, I'd lost a copy of A Clockwork Orange, which is a real pity because I'd written all over it and had lots of nice notes in it. Surprised to see, I remember it being thicker. But I picked up that nice Penguin Modern Classics in white now. Goodness gracious, I suppose. And I also, sadly, one of the other books that got destroyed was my copy of 1984. So there you go. That's my birthday reading. Well, as much as I will read all these books again. But my birthday was actually about replacing lost books. So nice to have them back, especially because dystopias and stuff like that. But I remember if I wrote a paper once upon a time on Orwell and 1984 and A Clockwork Orange, The Language of Power, comparing not that I ever published it. I think it was comparing NADSAT to IngSoc. But there we go. But that was nice. But yeah, it's there's quite a few filmmakers do it. It's seldom that if somebody can take a property, something like that, and come at it better. I think one of the ones that I think that did though is and I like the original. Is it The Thing? from another world. But John Carpenter's thing is incredible. I love it. That's a remake, isn't it? What was the original thing? Yeah, the thing from another world in the 1950s, maybe. That's a Howard Hawks one, isn't it? That's a good example. But it was interesting you just saying about that story about. I was going somewhere with this a wee minute ago. When one science fiction writer comes up with an idea that is bang on, they've got it's something new. It's what Darko Suvin would call the novum, the new thing. And a real good example of this is just why I mentioned that Arabian Nights story of the sleeper who awakened is the arrival of the time machine by H.G. Wells. That's a game changer. Now, I'd happily probably bet money that almost every science fiction fan who comes in through this station has read a time travel book or seen a time travel film that involves a time machine of some kind. But prior to that, how do you go back and forward in time? It's often the sleeper must awaken, this kind of thing. It's a person falling asleep and awakening in the future. Is one of these ways that these kind of stories were handled. You've got stories like, not too sure about The Well at the World's End, things like Looking Backward by Edward Bellamy, things like that. News from Nowhere, I think are both. I think those kind of stories. God, I read both of those books in the 90s. I couldn't tell you a damn thing about them. I can tell you who wrote them and that kind of thing, but I just don't remember. Let me see. It's funny at the time. Looking Backwards, utopian science fiction novel by American journalist and writer Edward Bellamy, first published in 1888. It's Looking Backward, 2000 to 1887. The book was translated into several languages and in short order sold a million copies. Let's see what it says here. This is off the Wikipedia page, but it says, according to a 2021 essay in the New York Times, in the 19th century United States, only Uncle Tom's Cabin sold more copies in its first years than Looking Backward. Bellamy's book influenced many intellectuals and appeared by title in many socialist writings of the day. One of the few books ever published that created almost immediately on its appearance a political mass movement. There you go. Bellamy clubs. Bellamy's time travel novel. There we go. Tells the story of a hero figure named Julian West, a young American who at the end of the 19th century falls into a deep hypnosis-induced sleep and wakes up 113 years later. That's Looking Backward. News from Nowhere. Sorry, just my old brain fart. There's a bookshop called News from Nowhere in Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, there you go. The first thing up is News from Nowhere, Radical and Community Bookshop. There you go. News from Nowhere is 1890. Utopian Socialism and Soft Science Fiction, written by William Morris. First published in serial form in the Commonwealth Journal beginning on 11th of January 1890. And again, in the novel, there you go. My old memories maybe not that bad. Maybe just mixing them all up. The narrator, William Guest, falls asleep after returning from a meeting of the Socialist League and awakes to find himself in a future society based on common ownership and democratic control of the means of production. This kind of thing. So if you see what I mean, is I suppose the point I was trying to make is that once Wells has his time machine, all the other writers stop putting when you want to visit the future, they stop putting them to sleep and they can invent time machines, etc. So they're not really plagiarizing, Wells and stealing his idea, but it is his idea. And suddenly, it carries into science fiction as part of the language and terminology, There we go. Sorry, getting off a wee bit of topic, folks, but thought as I said, we just pop on and chat about the Dune movie tonight. And I think I said all in all, I think the whole thing I would give it a 6.5 out of 10 for parts 1 and 2. I'll probably give it last one, part 2, a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it. It depends on, I suppose, how much of a big of a Dune fan you are, and what do you think of these changes, etc., etc. But it's a very different animal, I think, from Frank Herbert's Dune. It has this the structure, if you like. It's got the bones and it's got the bones and maybe the nervous system of it, but it doesn't have the brain and the heart, I think. I don't know if it's a good way of putting it, but it's still definitely a good. Do you know what? I thought if this one had been so bad as the first one, the experience, I probably wouldn't bother going to the pictures anymore. To be honest with you, I was starting to not see the point. Just with home, watching stuff at home and all. So one thing I will say, maybe just to wrap up for tonight, is that as much as I'm back when it came out with an unbelievably horrific viewing experience of Dune Part 1, I think I said that at the time it was probably the film that might have just killed cinema for me. I'm quite pleased to say that regardless of what I think about what he's done to the Dune story, I can say that it's not the case, and maybe that this one saved it a wee bit for me. If you know what I mean, it gave me faith in I could watch a decent movie again, because I haven't seen one in the cinema in ages. In fact, very rare that I've seen a good film lately, I think, But the one that I'll be looking forward to most this year, the one that I'm going to go, woo, I can't wait for, is Furiosa, which I didn't even know was coming. But anything by George Miller is generally just absolutely brilliant, We're just having a wee chat about how good 3,000 Years of Longing was. The film he made after Mad Max Fury Road with Idris Elba is brilliant. And again, if anybody's into the Arabian Nights, this kind of thing, check it out. It's a wonderful film, absolutely cracking. And you know what? If you can just check out the trailer for 3,000 Nights of Longing, there's something about George Miller these days that the trailers for his movies are better than other people's films. Well, listen, folks. I'll tell you what. There's Brad. I'll keep nattering for a wee bit. We'll head on to one. I think you said that, Brad. How are you doing anyway? A mate of mine is a main extra in Furiosa. Lucky sod. I'd love to. I had a chance to be an extra in a film once, and it kind of worked out okay for me. It was goodness, when I was in London, I lived in and all around Twickenham. It's not too far from Shepherd and Stewart. I had a chance to be in Judge Dredd, the movie, the really bad one with Sylvester Stallone. And I'd gone home for 2 weeks on holiday, and there was a friend who knew what we get this guy. I was going to be done up or whatever, but would have been in the film, and they couldn't find me anywhere, and I missed the, and it was one of those ones where I I ended up being quite glad about it. I was kind of appalled, very excited about a Judge Dredd film back in the 90s. And certainly the marketing campaign here was quite good. They had Judge Dredd hula hoops, and they had some Judge Dredd radio stuff on, the radio dramas on, and it was very Harry Anfield doing ads on the telly and all for hula hoops. It was great. The film was awful. It was just, what the hell is this? It sure as hell isn't Judge Dredd. And I ended up watching the film on the boat from Harwich to the Hook of Holland. So I watched it on a boat, and my mate came up, and I'd seen the film, I was sitting up on the top of the boat looking out at the sea, and he thought I was really badly depressed about it. I might have thrown myself off the boat. Not that I would have done such a thing, but I was going, no, I'm fine. It was a shit film, wasn't it? That was a bad start to the holiday. Brad says, sorry, just got in. No worries, mate, no worries. 12:48 here, and the 10 to 1 was about 10 to 1 in the afternoon there, Brad, I suppose, roughly somewhere around midday. Have you seen the film yet, Brad, or when's it out in Australia? I'm just wondering, have you caught Dune Part 2 yet yourself? We were just having a basically wee natter just about my opinion of the film, etc. I'd love to see a series or mini-series of either Weave. I've read Weave World. Oh, I haven't read much Clive Barker or The Great and Secret Show by Clive Barker. And maybe you two could do them justice. Ah, I remember Weaver. I read that in school. Hmm. I think, in all honesty, as much as the advancement in cinema and stuff like that, Brad, I think TV really has television's come out with streaming and stuff like that, and the budgets and technology. Television should be having a bit of a renaissance, I think. But there are books and stories out there that are huge, epic, problematic, tricky, beyond cinema's reach, and television and is the perfect place for them. Prior to that, I would have told you the best place for anything is radio. You know, if you think about what we call the great unadaptables, you can't do this for screen. The first one of them is Lord of the Rings, and you see right there that is to this day still the best, as far as I'm concerned. The BBC 13-hour audio adaptation of is still the best version of Lord of the Rings to me. It's brilliant, and it's so atmospheric, and to have your own imagination work with the dramatization. Um, it brought, when there was no screen version of, I suppose you had the Ralph Bakshi cartoon, but those audio dramas brought the Lord of the Rings to life, utterly for me. And there's Dune is on audio, and even some culture stuff. And audio used to be the place where I thought that's where you can go to do this stuff. And the lack of a visual format, if you like, and particularly applying it in with the listener's imagination, it worked really well. For years when I was a kid listening to the Lord of the Rings cassettes, number 4 would be where they go to the mines of Moria, and the atmosphere in it, it's just brilliant. Close to midday. But yeah, stuff like that. There's so many. Even some of the big Greek myths and stuff, the way they're always truncated, you could probably handle them properly on the small screen. But one of I think the worst film that I could, the one film that really got to me prior to in terms of big changes to the story a wee while back was when I went to see Troy. And being a classics guy, I'm kind of interested in that. I was kind of appalled. The temerity. It was Wolfgang Peterson film. I kind of liked it. We just watched Enemy Mine by him recently, and just appalled at the changes that they made to think, that the modern audience wouldn't like this, or I was thinking, Jesus, this is a 2,800-year-old story, and why do you think it's still popular today? What makes you think you can do a better job? But yeah, the stuff like that, Clive Barker, yeah. I haven't seen a Clive Barker book in ages. It was a friend in school read Weave World, and he lent it to me. Yeah. There's Chris Life saying, I'm watching in a couple of hours, my second viewing. Trying hard this time to leave at home my book knowledge to appreciate it more. Still like the movie, but yeah. As I said, I went with it. I just really did. As I was watching, I just went, I'm going to, kind of like a holiday for me. I'm going to enjoy my day. I've got my popcorn and my drink and a packet of wine gums in the pocket. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this film. I'm not going to prejudge it in any way. And I don't, which is something I don't like to do. As much as I've seen other people's comments, I'm just going to give it a chance and see that entertain me. Come on, let's go see this. And I did enjoy it. As much as every little thing that went ping in my head went ping in my head. And as I said earlier, Chris, I did have one moment where I just went, oh, I just big tut, for one of those. I was annoyed, but I still enjoyed the film, and I said a lot more than part one. I suppose the tester now would be to sit to do the thing, isn't it? To go through part one and part two back to back, and see how it holds up as a story. I think it's much more fun being able to do that at home. You can pause it. I did have to go to the loo once, and it was like the toilet in the cinema was at the furthest point possible away from the screen that I was in. It I was up long corridors and down. I don't know what happened. At that point, Uh, I came back. I think I came back to see what was the character's name we were talking about it earlier. Whatever happened prior to that. Is it Shikali or something like that? What were we saying? Shishakli, that's it. I nipped out to the loo and I came back in where I think she was just about to get killed and had no idea what I just missed. And I'm going to be completely honest, by the way, guys. One of the other things is I'm not too sure, and somebody might have to. Perhaps you could help me out here, Chris. Life. I didn't notice if Paul and Chani had a baby in the film, uh, and I was wondering about that. Did they or not? I didn't catch that. And I was thinking either that's not the case in the film that there is no little Leto, or I thought that little Leto might have been with Shishakli, but I wasn't sure. And again, because I jumped out the under the loo, I didn't know what I'd missed. Probably about 5 minutes of the film. I put noise to appreciate it more. Still like the movie, but yeah, it will niggle at you. You know, in about 4 hours, I'm going to see it. Brad says, excellent. Like horror movies, we don't see the BBEG. The imagination can do so much more. Absolutely. Um, God, I was trying to remember when I went book token hunting the other day. I was trying to remember the name of that author that we've been talking about. Um, and I couldn't. It was somebody who's similar to Ambrose Bierce, and I think it was considered the third kind of Lovecraft. Lovecraft. Robert E. Howard and this other person. I was been looking. I couldn't remember the name, but it was a horror writer. I think we were talking about Brad a wee while back. I'm not too sure, but like horror, I prefer that's my kind of horror as well. Atmosphere. I'm not. There wasn't movies that are like slasher porn and all of this kind of thing. Not interested. I like a good psychological, um, mythological horror. Some supernatural horror. But yeah, it's never the thing. The thing that makes the noise isn't the thing you jump at and you turn this kind of thing. But I love the old Hammer horror films. Kind of brought up on those and the Hammer horror TV series and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it, Brad. I said just yeah, I'm sort of again just doing a review and discussion here, but my 10 cents for those. I did enjoy it, but um, I'm still saying I think it's the least faithful adaptation ever of Dune, and I have my problems with it, but I did enjoy the movie. And I really did want to. I'll tell you something. I really wanted to enjoy the movie. I wasn't going to because I had a really shitty time with part one. And I just did not want it to be crap. And it wasn't. It was a good experience. I enjoyed the movie. How Dune fans are going to take it, I don't know. It just depends. It's just a version of it, and somebody else will make Dune again. I think. So I think sooner or later somebody's going to realize that the original Dune property, that whoever owns it or whatever they want to do with it, if they wanted to do it right, it will not suit cinema. The further you get into the books, it's much better suited to TV. I think Game of Thrones type thing. You know, it would do very well there, and I think you could do so much more with it. I think Dune could be really done very masterfully. Um, if you took your time to tell the story right, I think Chris, I say my prediction for Messiah, they will take Brian Herbert and Anderson's storyline and make Ali a fight with Fleming and Faye's daughter. That'll be the real abomination. Dear, oh dear, yeah. To be honest with you, I thought if this had been really bad. I almost was going to call it Dune Part Two or just Dune the Abomination would have been where I went with it. Um, Yeah, you see the problem. There's already problems by the changes that they've done within this that are going to happen in Messiah, and they will tumble further. It's a cascade problem, isn't it? The way Frank has written this, that to put all these threads together, and his own words to make it so difficult to tease one apart without. Um, it's problematic already. I would be much happier. I know everybody wants him to do Dune Messiah. I think he should stop and go, congratulations, you made a really good Dune movie. Go on, do something else. And that interest in the movie would set up a new TV series, I think. But I've no interest in, Anderson and Herbert's stuff. I've no interest in seeing it on the screen. It's I've read a few of them. No disrespect for them or anything, but it's not Frank Herbert's work. I don't consider it canon. I don't consider it in the same league writing wise. It detracts from Frank's work. And again, like it to a positive feedback loop. The more they do, the worse they make it, I think. But you got to make your money, haven't you? Money corrupts everything. Brad saying, I need to learn more about the Yellow King and its relationship to cosmic horror. I think the Yellow King and all of that stuff, Brad, is that it's just simply, it was a bit of a game changer. I think it was, if you read, I've occasionally talked about a couple of books. We've done videos on things like Tiger, and I think I had a wee chat on one of the videos about the Book of the New Sun, and it's the reaction to these books by other writers who are just going, fucking hell, what's this? If you see what I mean, just wow. When a book that has a particular thing about it that just comes out and shakes. I would have said that Mad Max Fury Road was like a smack in the face as a film, as a George Miller as a filmmaker. Smacked every Hollywood director in the face, and just whatever the crap you're making. Look at this, this is something else. This is your benchmark has changed. It's that kind of thing, and I particularly that book when I read it, The King in Yellow is something wonderfully. I don't know what it is about it. But it's kind of a combo. It's that you get with kind of that Lovecraftian, that cosmic horror as we were talking about. There's that sense of horror about it, but there's a strong science fiction element about it. There's a strong kind of mysticism about it, and there's almost the thing is that the Yellow King is almost a mythology within the book, and it's a play that doesn't exist within the book, and it's intriguing as hell. Is what it is, and I think if hang on, let me see if should be able to find it. I think it's a very easy read. My copy has 10. There it is. I'll just grab it. This is my. For those who don't know, don't read The King in Yellow. You'll go mad, or you'll die. I read it and reread it and wept and laughed and trembled with horror, which at all times assails me yet. This would have influence even in something like Ring, the Japanese film Ring. There's aspects to it that are. I mean, the Repairer of Reputations, when I read it, I just went, oh, this is good. And the first thing I did was when I was reading it, Brad, was actually went, when was this written? I was going, this seems a wee bit ahead of its time. It was that kind of thing. I was so impressed by it. I'll just beware. I'll give you the wee blurb from the introduction just quickly. It says, and this is why it's something. There's something about the book. My first copy disappeared in strange circumstances. Beware reading this book. You do so at your own peril. To allow your eyes to wander freely over the text could bring disastrous results. Your mind, your personality, and your life will be affected in a most dramatic fashion. Well, that is the premise behind this fascinating collection of stories by R.W. Chambers. The King in Yellow of the title is in fact a printed play script which takes a hypnotic, malevolent hold on all those who read it. To explain further would not be fair, for it will rob you of the surprises and the creeping horror found in these unusual stories, and I really wouldn't want you to miss out on the pleasing terror that awaits you. It's it's a mysterious mystery, mystique, all of these things. And even there's a story that I really love, which is not a King in Yellow story. It's a time travel kind of thing. It's the Demosel de E, you call it. You might hear me occasionally refer to my girls here as the Demosel de Nudel and the Demosel de Ollie. That's our dogs. But it has It, I don't know how to put it. It's a kind of weird supernatural metatextuality that will affect you a little bit as you read it. And as I said, I freaked out a bit when well, not totally, but I didn't freak out, but I found it kind of funny that I lost. And I was explaining, it was a party, and I was explaining I think somebody pinched it at the party, but I was explaining to people about this book and what happened if you tried to get rid of it, and it vanished. And I was reading the King of the Yellow stories when my copy disappeared, and unfortunately, it wasn't very dear. This one's Wordsworth editions. I think it was really cheap. It's a nice book. And it has this copy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 stories in it. The 4 stories that make up the King in Yellow stories are called The Repairer of Reputations, The Mask, In the Court of the Dragon, and The Yellow Sign. So the rest of them are just they're not pertaining to that particular thing, but it's fascinating, and it is one of those. Yeah, you'll tear through it, grab it. Anybody, big recommendation. Well, I'll just read you the blurb on the back. When its strange, imaginative blend of horror, science fiction, romance, and lyrical prose, Robert W. Chambers' The King in Yellow is a classic masterpiece of weird fiction. A series of vaguely connected stories is linked by the presence of a monstrous and suppressed book, which brings fright, madness, and spectral tragedy to all those who read it. An air of futility and doom pervades the pages like a sweet, insidious poison. Dare you read it? This collection has been called the most important book in American supernatural fiction between Poe and the moderns. H.P. Lovecraft, creator of the famed Cthulhu mythos, whose own fiction was greatly influenced by this book, stated that The King in Yellow achieves notable heights of cosmic fear. There you go. That's your sell on the back of the book. A delight, an absolute delight. But the other thing that makes it wonderful, guys, is it's just so well written. When we talk about people who really know how to craft words, and it's not just the story that they tell; it's the way they put the words on the page. It's a brilliant book, and you can read them one at a time. They're quite short. I think I'm hoping to record them actually. That's what I think of them. And yeah, great fun. Highly recommend it if anybody's not heard of The King in Yellow. What else is there? Anybody's on hasn't seen it? True Detective Series 1 with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson it's all about The King in Yellow. That's really good. That's really good. I really enjoyed that. It was nice to sort of see, for those who watched that, kind of it gave a little bit of a resurgence, I think, into Chambers' work, But if for those of us who know the old sort of horror, or the old magazine era, Lovecraft, all those, that's that kind of era, and he'd easily take his place with those writers. But I would say he's a much better writer than the likes of Lovecraft and Howard. And I'm a big fan of those men's writing. I think they're really good writers. He's on a different level. He's really good, Oh, I don't gush about authors too much like that, But brilliant writings. I don't know. It's something that I recognize it when I see it, and never notice it when it's not there. But it's something that's not a lot of writers have it. It's quite rare, if you know what I mean. Some books it doesn't matter what the story's about. Whenever you start reading them, you go, well, bloody hell, this guy can write. I wonder what this is about. It doesn't matter what the book's about. The way their wordsmithery, if you like, is you won't care. It'll take you there. I'd happily read a really good writer, regardless of what they're writing. Yellow Sign gets a mention in the streaming service show Detective. So True Detective, that's it. Yeah, it's a big part of the plot. It runs with the King in Yellow being real, and Carcosa being real. Um, yeah, it's really good. Um, you see, that's the thing. If you'd read this, then that show, True Detective Series One. I haven't liked any of the others. I thought it was exceptionally good. But if you know the King in Yellow stories and the Yellow Sign, all of that stuff, it really lends a whole lot to it. It's like, whoa, this is, But the book's like that as well. The book, True Detective. Check that one out, Brad. If you haven't seen it, it's really good. You know. Oh, I missed a couple of comments, I think, folks. Let me see. Brad was saying, I went to see part one the other night with a friend at the IMAX. It was so hard not to interrupt his viewing by saying that isn't right. I suppose that's the thing, is that people go into the cinema, book fans and non-book fans. I wonder how in general. I think most of certainly the YouTube channels, a lot of those are run by the book fans, really, aren't they? I think certainly in their reviews, most of them have been quite happy with it. Some have been more ecstatic about it than others. Hello, Big Sausage, you alright? There's our Holly Dolly there. Chris said, I'm watching tonight with 10 people. I too will shut up and let them enjoy it as much as possible before I discuss it with them weeks later. That sounds like fun. Yeah. It's good to let it sink in a wee bit. I must say, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I will take myself to see it next week again. It's my first time in the local cinema since COVID, and they've put in VIP seats and recliner seats and all. So it's the cinema experience there is completely different than what I'm used to. It used to be quite cramped and cold. In fact, I remember going in to see a movie in there, and they had a big kind of like almost like a rocket car engine thing, just to try to heat the place. So no, it was very nice. It was very, very civilized, I thought. And I think, as I said, I think it will be nice to watch the two, part one and part two together. Sit down with some popcorn in the comfort of the own home, not in the cinemas, So not miss anything. I think that's the main thing. It's my other complaint about the cinema these days, folks. Really, is this is the needs of the human body. You need to go to the loo. This whole making films 3 hours, 3.5 hours, there's limitations. It's different. It's funny. I was actually thinking, because of watching Dune, how I was actually considering how movies all end up, is that regardless of what movie directors want, the television ultimately is cinema's graveyard, isn't it? Whatever you imagine the best possible way to show your movie, see it in IMAX, see it in widescreen, see it in this Dolby, whatever. Ultimately, movies don't stay at the cinema for too long, and ultimately they end up on the small screen. And we've all got slightly bigger screens at home these days, I think. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be honest with you, if I went to see it again, I think I would enjoy it again. I think I might, a bit like yourself, Chris, I might relax a bit more about it now that I've kind of spotted all the things. But some of the things really were quite jarring, and just some of the sound assaults I still didn't think were particularly good. As someone who's learned from my own audience about getting his sound right over the years, it's quite important. I used to sort of orally assault people with my videos until I figured it out because of my hearing problem. But no, overall I enjoyed it. I thought the characters were where it was let down, but I would happily go and watch it again. And it's very much a spectacle, and I was kind of looking at how the director had kind of went about his craft, if you see what I mean. And I thought the other thing that I thought really stood out for it was a lot less blurry and sandy, and things were a lot clearer and easier to see. Funny that it isn't Paul's story that I'm interested in, but how bad they messed up Jessica and his sister's story. They messed it up bad. real bad, real bad, Brad. It's do you know something? Paul's character came out of it quite well, I think. Um, I think all of the actors who've played Paul Atreides have done quite a good job. Um, you know, I think Timothée Chalamet did a really good job. I've no complaints about him, to be honest with you. And I thought the portrayal of Paul went quite well. I think where they detracted from his character to give things to Jessica or this kind of thing. Um, but I thought he did a good job. But no, my biggest complaints, or the biggest complaints, things that really jarred with me are Chani, Lady Jessica, Alia, and the Baron, and the missing Thufir. Oddly enough, because the chapter that we're doing for the book club is I've called the chapter Moonfall. It's the missing moon, and it's all about Paul trying to figure out what's going to happen with this. What does this vision mean for my future and for Chani's future? And it's the fact that she's not in it. It's the thing that's missing that he's fixating on. And I was kind of doing the same thing almost. Like going, where the fuck's Thufir at the end? I was going, can I see Thufir? Is he even in it at all? And but it was the characters. They were not themselves. And Jessica came across as Jessica amused me. I thought she was funny. She's almost comic relief. She's a bit aggressive, and I thought possibly drugged up and hormonal or something. But she was, uh, and I think yes, I think they've created a power shift in whose plan is this? It's the Bene Gesserit, and it's not their plan. It quite clearly tells us so in the book, and pretty much the last page of the book. But there is no Alia's story at all. And Jessica runs around talking to her belly like it's like a telephone in a kind of funny way, and trying not to be seen talking to her belly in front of the friend. Jessica's character comes across as unhinged and powerful nonetheless, but someone who wields their power in a bad way. I think I thought the character wasn't maintained well. I thought if they'd maintained the character the way it was in the first film, I thought the actors did a good job with it. But I thought, the overlay stuff that should have been with Paul went on to her, and I thought they were trying to make Jessica stronger than. I'm not really realizing how strong she is in the book. It's one of these kind of things. All the comments about the female characters have been I suppose looking at them from a modern point of view and not understanding the characters at all or how they operate within this universe. That this book is full of strong female characters, and we don't mean Hollywood's idea of what a strong female character is. Properly, crafted characters that, as much as not everybody has a lot of time in the book, if you see what I mean, it's kind of equal weight for most of these characters. But the female characters are very real and believable and well realized in Dune, and within that society that they live in, and to look at that society and claim that their positions within that society are. That's a bit shit. We'll have to modernize these women. It's a misunderstanding of the book and its feudal nature. If you see what I mean, and the fact that the women in the book are not stupid, and that they understand that by being powerful out in the front makes a big target on you. And this is why they're in the shadows. This is why they're out in the background. This is why they stay there, manipulate, and go about their business. But these characters in this book are not weak and did not really need to be strengthened up. I think all of an attempt to strengthen change Chani's characters, all of the things that might be considered weak by a modern Hollywood reader, perhaps, I don't know, filmmaker, are actually the character's strengths. And particularly her role in the marriage of Paul is obliterated in the book, and it makes her just look like she's taking my man, I'm going to run away. This kind of thing. It wasn't good. Yeah, that was the other thing I find. Yeah, as Brad was saying there, I find her too. Brad says I find her too emotional in the first movie. I expect the Bene Gesserit to be austere in interactions. I more yeah composed. I thought, and she has emotional moments in the book, but a lot of there are a few characters that do that, and they all turn away. They do their best to hide it. They don't go running around going boo like that, or no outward displays because you don't know who's watching. This kind of thing. But I thought it was maybe a bit balanced, maybe to make her more human. If you see, I mean, to take away the toughness of Lady Jessica, but she's tough, but she's kind of dictatorial almost. She's yeah. You get to see it, the Bene Gesserit manipulation in a much more overt a negative manner. I think there's nothing subtle about her. I think in the film, that was my big complaint about Lady Jessica's character. All subtlety is gone. The scenes that she's in, you might as well just chuck a big boulder, and just crash into the room and wreck stuff if you like. It's that kind of impact that she turns up and, hey, could you do this? No, and just fucking like smash, boom, with vocally, and it's whoa, and it's she has no patience, and I think that's possibly partly to do with the condensing of the timeline as well, stoic mode maybe the better word. Be like more, yeah, composed stoic. Yeah, I get that. I just did not get that of her at all. But I would have said that the character could have maintained that and taken it a little bit more vulnerable or a little bit more under control. With the character growth, let's get more control perhaps and stop being so emotional as as the nature of our situation changes and life gets a bit tough on us. It seems that she kind of loses it a bit. I think. I don't know if I've just bumped into her in that movie, I would have been worried about her mental state. But yeah, she's you can see what you think of her in the film. It's her characters I thought was quite different. I find it hard to see continuity with the character from part one, and I found the interactions with her pregnancy we've laughable. And honestly, to be honest with you, if I'd taken my wife to see this, she would have had a problem with this. Because the last film that I made her go and watch, that was a science fiction film in the cinema, was Prometheus. That was also written by John Spates and had a ridiculous alien pregnancy abortion scene in it that just what the fuck is going on in this? And I was trying to say, all the alien films are quite good and all this. I had to walk out of that cinema and go, I'm so sorry. In fact, I've apologized to my wife for two films. One was Dune Part 1 and one was Prometheus. And both of them have been written by John Spates. So there you go. The Bene Gesserit should be able to manipulate people in more subtle ways before playing the race of the voice. Yeah, it's done very forcefully, and it's often that there's witnesses. She's trying to do it subtly and be not witnessed. But I think often that there's no privacy in the Fremen siege, and that she is being witnessed. See what you think about it yourself, Brad. I just thought it was a big change for the character. I suppose it's the character's one thing up until she takes the water of life, and I thought that was handled pretty badly. I thought that could have been a big, huge visual spectacle. It could have been something to see. But no, she's blunt force trauma in terms of I must make them believe in my son, this kind of thing. Nothing subtle about her. In fact, I'd say a lot of the subtleties of the Bene Gesserit are lost. I always imagine the voice is kind of, if you listen to the David Lynch version, there's that kind of come here, and you kind of almost the sound kind of lingers on, and it almost kind of whirls around your ear. It's a weird thing, and it's a subtle thing. And I agree with you. I always thought that the voice was subtle. It was so subtle. Whenever we read the book, tone, inflection, all these little things that you can put into voice, shadings, all these um, mannerisms and suggestions that you can put into just the tone of your voice, with adding layers onto the words, meaning all sorts of things. But really, the voice in this film's a brick through a window at 3 in the morning when everyone's asleep. It's that kind of thing. The noise in the film does jolt you a wee bit. Some of the sound effects, and some of the ways I think that the sound was really, really impressive. I said whenever Siege Tabar was under attack, I kind of, whoa, it feels like you're kind of sitting watching this. That you can feel the vibrations almost in the cinema. There was one other thing I thought was, I don't know if it was me or the cinema screen, but there seemed to be like a constant oscillation in the air on the screen. And I don't know if that was deliberate from the film, if it was meant to be like heat blooms from Arrakis or something. Sorry, there's all that smoke coming up there, folks. Apologise. The window open there. Or else it was just some kind of heater or something in the cinema. I don't know. But yeah, but just revealed more subtle ways before playing the raise of the voice. I said it was just she goes straight to, hey, would you do this? It's not like do it. Oh, okay. There's no real discussion or subtlety about it at all. Brad said I have been having issues with someone in my volunteer work. I absolutely flummoxed him the other evening. When he came to have another passive-aggressive dig, I got him beforehand by simply raising my finger to my lips before he got a word out, and it stopped him completely. Very good. Yeah. I tend to go with passive-aggressive people. I just tend to go, what's with all the passive-aggressive bullshit? It's just be aggressive about it, you know. But it's passive aggressive is kind of is funny. I find it amusing. Um, I can't. I don't think I can be passive aggressive. I'm aggressive. My wife's the same. Well, I suppose I don't know if we're ever passive, if you know what I mean. But a passive aggressive is a particular thing. I'm used to dealing with it, and it's funny. But one of the good ways I found about dealing with it is a bit like we're just talking about the Bene Gesserit voice, is blunt force trauma. Um, I'm very blunt and direct about anything that people say to me or ask about. And if someone says something, I would just immediately go, "Well, why did you say that in that manner? What's your reasoning?" And bring them up on it. But passive aggressive is obsequious, isn't it? There's always something snide or it's kind of I've had some doozies in my time, but it's listen to the language. I think is the important thing. What are they trying not to say? What are they trying to say? And how are they trying to pretend what they're saying? But I don't know. The world's a funny place. Yeah, I haven't done any volunteer work in a long time myself. But people are people, aren't they? I suppose you meet all sorts, Brad. But I don't know. I don't know if me and the wife find people I don't know generally don't like dealing with us at all. And it's nice in a way that that people won't get passive and they'll just not come near me. But it's we've a kind of directness about us, I suppose, that we're I don't know what to call it. As the wife says, we have a bit of presence about us as well, but we're very direct. I'll give you a couple of examples some other time. At a couple of wee things we used to do when we were holding court in Amsterdam, as we used to call it. But some people just not behaving themselves in public. I just you just behave. That's kind of thing. Go straight there and they go what, and I tell them exactly what they've done. And why that it wasn't smart, this kind of thing. But generally trying to protect them. But the old shh, don't want to hear it, But yeah, good way around that, Brad's just, hey man, what's with all the passive aggressive bullshit? you know, I don't know. But that's the thing is, I suppose, Brad, one of the things that me and my wife talk about is that we've got so little patience for when you're out and about in the world for pussyfooting and dancing around subjects and stuff. We usually need to be getting on with something, and would love it if we need to do something. If you could get to the point and tell us what it is, But we're so overt about it. It's probably considered quite rude, to be honest. But just run out of patience. Mm. At the same time, when you meet it out there, it's refreshing. The cinema today. Just I was doing that popcorn thing with the June, and the young lady's response to me was just very refreshing. Just good. No, we're not doing that here. That's good to know. We're just not sorry, sir. We're not offering whatever nonsense they might waffle back at you. It was just no. Brad says, "Yep, I normally do aggressive, so this was a new angle, and there's no way he can complain about my behaviour. I'm diffusing the situation. If I'm asked, as I know he'll sook behind my back." Yeah, I don't know. Aggressive is I don't know. We get called aggressive, but it's not. It's just being, to me, it's being forthright and just being direct, if you like. You listen to people talk about these days violence with language and proper aggression, and they're very, very different things, But I would mention the other week, I argue with people, but I use argument in the Greek sense of the word, and I'll argue with anybody about anything. I can be quite contrary about that, but I'll argue aggressively. I don't. But I do listen and I keep an open mind. This kind of thing. But no, I don't. I don't sit back and let people be silly buggers. It's better to take control, I think, and it's easy enough to take control of situations like that. But I'm kind of well trained in it, to be honest with you. But I can turn aggression on, but all of my aggression comes from my words and body language. I've never had to deal with anybody violently my entire adult life, which is a good thing. But you get a bit of male aggression in there as well, don't you, Brad? It's But it's the interesting thing is that as much as you're talking about passive aggression and stuff like that, all yours are both volunteers. You must have some kind of caring side. There must be something going on there. H account says having the ending end on Chani's bitter face pissed me off. I did not like the ending. Yeah, excuse me. She looked like she was huffing through most of the film, and it was I'm right and everyone's wrong, and it was a bit, I don't know how to put it. Chani came across, I'm not sure if this would be the right term or not, but no, it's probably not the right term. Almost, I was thinking of Frank Zappa's Valley Girl, but I'm not too sure. I think my idea of what an American Valley Girl is something maybe different. But she came across as very American. As I said, her accent felt out of place. She seemed out of place amongst the Fremen. I thought the actress did a good enough job, but I think she could have probably done with an accent or something. But it was the other character that was with her throughout the bulk of the film. I actually thought that they should have the actress that played what's the name again? Is it Shikali or something? Shishakli, sorry. I thought that actress was really good and kind of seemed to be more like Chani than Chani was. And that kind of confused me a lot. I just thought, why is this? I don't know. And the other actress, Shishakli, seemed more like a Fremen. Chani seemed like I don't know. I don't know. She just it was I don't know. It was just the mannerisms of the actress. I think that particularly the voice that just seemed to not fit. But I almost kept thinking of the actress next to her as being Chani. I thought that was a strange thing to do. But yes, it's kind of almost off she goes into the riding a worm, this kind of thing, into the sunset. And it kind of starts with her, doesn't it, telling the story, and it ends with her, and it's kind of a shoe out of the whereas Dune begins with the Bene Gesserit, really, and ends with the Bene Gesserit talking. Um, the statement about wives, and no, it stripped out her role in the wedding, and the planning the wedding, and the whole strategy of the wedding to Irulan. Chani's completely on board, and is the best negotiator for Paul. If you see what I mean in the book, she's not. It looks like, oh no, my love has betrayed me. He's going to marry this. It's really done that kind of way. And no, I didn't like. I also didn't really like Paul's last line in the film either. But really, I don't know what they're trying to do in that sense, because I've always looked at Chani as a very strong character, and I look at her as a tragic character, and that's the whole point about her, is that it's all Paul's tragic for all of these people. And again, funny enough, as I said, it's the chapter we're going to be heading in the book club on Thursday. Is I call this chapter Moonfall, the missing moon. And it's all about what's going to happen to Chani, or where Chani is in Paul's future. The whole thing, can he save her? He ultimately, in a funny way, I think, it's no, Chani really is on Paul's side, and it's her tragedy. It's tragic, but he's not 100% honest with her, and I just thought it was wrong for the character. She's pretty hard fighter and all that stuff. She fights every challenger that comes to challenge Muad'Dib in the books, and that would have been, I think, a better way of demonstrating her power, if you like. But it's she's politically savvy, and in this film she's not. She's ignorant, I think, of the Imperium. Yet she seems to have knowledge of Bene Gesserit, the Bene Gesserit mission area protective, and I think they kind of have that wrong in the film too. As much as they go that the Bene Gesserit planted this legend here, having done the book club there with June recently, it really does look like the strong suggestion is that there's already a myth in place before the Bene Gesserit plant the mission area protective in June, and that's the problem. If you see what I mean. If at each account saying if they move on to June 3, June 2, it's confusing, isn't it? Chani is practically Paul's enemy. I don't see them having a see. That's one thing I was asking. Did anybody notice? Did they have a child in the film? I had the run to the loo, and I think I might have missed it, but I'm guessing they didn't. Yes, it's You're right. It's she's a lover spurned, isn't she? It's not the character, and Chani is so full on in love with Paul. They are they're two halves of the same coin in some ways. But she is in love with him, and he is in love with her. But it's her love is pretty strong. It's not. This wouldn't have pissed her off. She would have been involved in it. It's wrong from the book. It's wrong for the character. And I think, as you say, she practically just must hate him at this point. It has massive problems for Messiah, and especially the core. I said we're doing our Jim Messiah book club at the minute, on Thursdays, with a close study of it. Chapter 11, The Missing Moon. It's all about Chani. And, the fact that will Paul have a future without Chani, this kind of thing. And it's a really important chapter. It's one where we really go into Paul's insight into his mind, because he's got this prescient vision, but he can't interpret it. And we even get offered some interpretations throughout this chapter. What is the missing moon? Is it his civilization that's going to fall? It could be his house. It could be the Fremen themselves, because they are the children of Messiah, the children of the moon. And ultimately comes to the realization that this fallen moon represents Chani. I'd argue it represents them all. All of those things are represented by the moon, but in particular, it's Chani is the thing that he realizes, and it's going to cause enormous problems. And not only that, then it's going to cause real problems for. And this is the thing, as we're calling June 3 as June Messiah, so it's really June 2. If we go to June 4, which will be Children of June, which is June 3, this is getting confusing. Then what he's done with Alia has massive consequences. And again, this is the point. These changes will require rewrites. That you'll in entering June Messiah immediately, you cannot adapt this the way it is because you've done stuff here that's going to have problems. But simply having Alia not being born and Alia not killing the Baron, that's a massive, 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 massive mess up for Children of June, and for Alia's story arc and everything about it. Because the Baron is a major character in Children of June, and he's dead, but he's inside the head of the person that killed him, and that happens to be Alia. And if we ultimately, when we look into all the reasons for, and this is it's a thing that we've had a big chat about on a number of occasions. Maybe we should actually just dedicate a whole night to it. Is set it up and give people plenty of notice, and we'll have a why is the Baron in Alia's head night, and we'll bring forward all the theories that we've got, and hopefully grab a few more because there's so many. And to me, the most likely one is that he's there because of she's insane, and it's partly to do with her guilt from murdering him. Whenever she does kill him, she gives him a mercy killing. Really, it's a kindness. She gives him a quick poison because he's her grandfather. And Alia's general little kind of slaughter fests are generally considered acts of mercy, But it will every change in June will have massive consequences down the road. And each account we were having a wee chat about just at the start there about interviews that Denis Villeneuve had been giving. And one of those, he was kind of taking pieces of information, if you like, almost like a sort of syllogistic fallacy, if you like. That Frank Herbert wrote Dune, and then he wrote Dune Messiah. And he wrote Dune Messiah because people didn't get Paul Atreides, and it's completely not true. And as much as he was a bit annoyed that maybe people didn't get the warnings about the hero, but it was all deliberate. Parts of Dune Messiah and Children of Dune are completed before Dune's finished. So the 3 books are written at a go initially to know where the whole story is going. So bits of Messiah and Children of Dune are completed before Dune. It's Messiah, as Denis Villeneuve has been saying, is not a response to Dune itself. It's middle, it's inversion, and then you get it flipped back again with Children of Dune. But the 3, that's how original way it's meant to be set up, So I think each of these little changes has huge problems, but it depends on how accurate you want to be. And to be honest with you, if you've wiped out these problems down the road here, etc., the way they have Chani and Paul bond, for example, in the movie, they should be bonding over the fact that they've both just lost their fathers. They've lost their fathers pretty much on the same day. It's one of the reasons why they're close in the book. It's that shared tragedy, and again, none of that's there. The whole Late Kynes is a woman, Late Kynes is, muck around with the character, bomb it off, and not show that the character has any relationship to, Chani at all. It's Chani's dad. It's I don't know. The things that are missing, the things that are focused on, I'm not too sure. I think if I was making it, I would have done it very differently, But isn't that the joy of hindsight and all of that kind of stuff? But I still think it was a good film. I think, and it is a tricky. Dune it's complicated. It's dense. It's not difficult to understand. It's just dense, and it does shift an awful lot back and forward in time within the book, etc. But it does that for reasons. And I always think, interestingly, I think one of the things that I got from the film was coming out of it was thinking about what Frank Herbert said about Dune. Was what ultimately it's what does this say about you, the reader, in terms of the book? And I was thinking about, well, coming out of the cinema, what does it? I asked the same question. What does it say about us, the audience? or what does it say about Hollywood that they want to change things like this to offer you this instead of that? We don't want to mention the word crusade, but we'll go with jihad. Sorry, but we'll go with crusade, and we'll go with fundamentalism, and there's little things that kind of go, what the hell are you at here? I'm kind of curious. What's your goal here? Why are you doing this? But on the whole, still just really good fun. I think it was good. Yeah, good, enjoyable. Very much an action movie. As someone said, a bit more like Star Wars, or maybe than we might want. And the only interesting thing is, one other thing I'll add is that I keep hearing people describe it as this fantastic war movie. Dune's an anti-war book. To take an anti-war book and turn it into a war film is kind of a bit perverted, I think. Brad saying a small pick from the first movie that the worm's scales often open forward instead of backwards really goes against every other animal that has scales. I was thinking just the way that they shot the worm, with Paul writing it and the Fremen writing it, is that I kind of the way they did it in David Lynch's Dune tended to make a lot more sense. That you're up above the surface on the top of the worm. It just tends to kind of ride it through solid sand dunes and stuff, and driving in the sand dunes at a reasonable speed doesn't seem to have any impact whatsoever on a rider hanging on with two hooks. But we're going into it's like one of those, isn't it, where they get the earth rotating the wrong way in movies and stuff like that. I thought, the worms were quite impressive. I think we got to see different sizes and scales, no pun intended, Brad, there, of the worms. But that's an interesting one. I wouldn't have noticed that. I guess every other animal that has scales. I haven't met too many myself. That comes from living in Northern Ireland, I got here late, says H account. What did you think of Giddy Prime and Fade? I liked the cinematography of it. I thought it was well done. I thought Fade's character was well done. It's not like Fade in the book. Book's different. There was a fair chunk of that was kind of right with that part of the book on Giddy Prime. But we didn't get to see the intrigue between the Emperor, Fenring, and the Baron. Excuse me. I thought the Black Sun was stupid. But there you go. Giddy Prime's got an orange sun. But I just thought it looked a bit daft. I also thought that the triangular arena was a bit odd. But I thought that was maybe an odd bit of Frank Herbert kind of, the tripod is the weakest of political structures, this kind of thing. But I thought it was quite impressive. I liked the arena. I liked the kind of background fighters, if you like, working with Fade. But again, I didn't quite like the way that the relationship with the Baron and Fade was played there. I thought the Baron was more fearful of Fade than Fade should be fearful of the Baron. There's no, they totally omitted the manta. There's no thuffer at all. The whole thuffer's a dangerous weapon, isn't it? It's the whole, what's happened to thuffer. And then, thuffer's quite important in the Giddy Prime sense of things, and gives us a sort of insight and an eyeball, if you like, into what's going on there in the book. But again, it's the same thing. Visually, it looked kind of impressive, but it's what's missing and what's important. And again, I thought Fade's character was the whole licking of the knife and the random killing of servants. This kind of and it makes sense if you know the little plot that's going on between Fade and the Baron trying to kill it. Well, Fade's tried to kill the Baron and doesn't succeed in the book, but that pretty much has Fade in deep trouble. But the whole point of that is that the Baron doesn't kill him because the Baron wants him on the throne. And when we see that later on, with what happens to the Baron, how the Baron dies, and that was wrong, But there's so much missing, I think, I think even the drug melange is really missing from the film. You know, Arakeen's kind of just like a box. There's plenty of stuff that's missing. I think if you think about it, there's no sign of the guild, or the end of it is the end of June is kind of one of those things where you bring in all your players, if you like. Um, if you and it's there's a lot of it. I always thought that the end of June is kind of a bit of a mimic of the end of Hamlet, if you like. The duel in Hamlet, and even has poison in it. But yeah, even little things like there's things that people might not have got, like the black and white dagger. But I liked the arena fight, and I thought it went quite quickly. I thought you don't want them to drag it out, but the intrigue was down there, and I thought the wee bit with Margot Fenring was quite good. The way you see there we had Fade being manipulated with subtlety, and in great contrast to how Jessica's going about her business later on. But yes, indeed. I just thought that they would have even wrapped the character up for a moment, or just went, there he is, he's a prisoner of the Harkonnens, or just even or even just shown his dead body or something. Whatever happened to Thufir Howard is, where did he go? Has he been swallowed by a worm? But yeah, I think my biggest regret of the whole thing is the Baron. Is a great villain, and a great hero needs a great villain. And regardless of whose plan is what's plan or whatever in the book, the Baron is the villain. He's our main antagonist. Other people are just in the shadows, but he's the real forefront of everything, and he's a wonderful character. He's an absolute mental case, sadistic nut job, who does not kill by his own hand. Generally that's the other thing. We don't get involved, this kind of thing. He's so much smarter. To have him just be this thing that Paul Atreides can just walk up and stab him and be done with it. It was just he was too good a villain to have such a shoddy end, I think. And I love the Baron's ending. I don't think there's anything silly or stupid about Alia's character in the chapter where she deals with the Baron in the book, when we've seen her on screen and portrayed this way. She's incredibly scary. She's there's nothing. There's something quite funny in a kind of you get that in the chapter that they're kind of, it's just a child. It's that kind of. But there's something outrageously sinister about her. And all you got to do is step back for a second and realize that this is a child, and the way it's written, she's incredibly deadly. The whole thing, it fits well that this little girl walks in and kills her grandfather. And is mouthing off to everybody else. The totally omitted the Mentats. They totally omitted Alia, I think, even just given that brief second future look at her. But I just thought that was a cop out. And I think I don't know what excuse they've got for removing literally the other half of Paul Atreides from that, but it was I can't think of any good reasons for it. And how you would handle Alia in the film, I think if it was done right, and I don't see why you wouldn't approach it that way. It could have been very sinister. It would have been a much more satisfying end to the Baron, and she's as much House Atreides as Paul is in some ways. The strongest scene was when saying the strongest scene was when Paul stood up to everyone in the circle after drinking promises of paradise. Oh, after drinking promises of paradise. I'm trying to remember that, but is that surrounded by all the Fremen, isn't it, or something like that? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, it's funny that I've only seen the thing once. I already want to try and refresh my memory of it. I'm trying to think if I had a particularly favourite moment in the film. I did like the point about the Baron pointing out about the use of artillery. I thought that's there we go. There's a bit more of the Baron, but I don't know. I quite like the sort of scene where Gurney Halleck, where Paul and Gurney Halleck were reunited. And the whole coming down from the spice crawler, and in the book it's described he's up with his little command bubble and stuff like that. I quite like that. Um, you know, Brad says surely the Emperor and the Bene Gesserit would have the eyes due to the usage of spice. Yeah, any long term. I didn't think much of the blue within blue eyes either. I was barely noticing it, to be honest. But yeah, anyone who's a spice addict should have some level of blue to their eyes. And again, the Emperor. I mean, I think somebody said Christopher Walken's in his 80s. I thought he looked pretty old. Didn't seem to have a lot of energy. He was just being Christopher Walken, and I thought that was kind of a, just it wasn't right. He's miscast. He's a great actor. It's just not a role for him, I think. I don't know who I would have. I don't know who would you cast as the Emperor, but do they show navigators? No. I'm still trying to figure out. Brad, I've seen the film, and I was asking earlier. I haven't figured out if Paul and Chani had a baby in it or not yet, because I did have to go to the loo once. There you go. They did not. No, there's just stuff missing. I must. Yeah, last time I Thufir Howard, I must have a look. What's the last we see of Thufir Howard? I'm just wondering, did they kill him off with the tooth scene or something? Maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, it's oddly enough, it's when we think about Dune, we talk about no ships, no globes, and we talked about Hazimir Fenring having the no gene, and this thing. It's a motif in Dune, isn't it? That things are noticeable because of their absence. That's that's a way of thinking about the film. You start to notice things when they're missing, and you can suddenly get going. And it was just, it was at the scene where after Battle of Arakin, basically, or fighting the Sardaukar. That's where I kind of started looking for where's Thufir. I was looking at in the David Lynch, you see all the different people lined up, and you kind of look, and there's different people moving amongst it and stuff. And you're looking at the characters who are all lined up, and it's just going under. I spotted Margot Fenring, and I was looking. I wonder is Hazimir there? And Hazimir's the thing, isn't he? He's noticeable by his absence. You never notice him. No baby, no Hazimir, no. No Gurney's sister. I still think that was the one moment that bothered me, that you've gone ahead and made this change. See, I think it'd be much more satisfying to have Raban ripped to bits by the crowd, by the people he's been slaughtering. That's the whole point. There's a lot more people to take revenge on him than just Gurney, I think, as well. But to wipe out the reason for his revenge, and make it about his duke instead of his sister. I thought that was appalling. Yeah, no baby Leto, no baby Alia. It's baby light, isn't it? I did get to see a wee scene of Muad'Dib as well. That was good. We saw the kangaroo mouse this time. I think in the first, when we went to see Dune Part 1, I think we didn't. Somebody had said to me, "What do you think of the mouse?" And I think we said we didn't see it. It was out of screen. And there you go. But yes, indeed. Well, listen, folks, I've gone on a wee bit longer than I thought, but it's just coming up to 2 o'clock, so I'll wrap up here. And I'll just say, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I just thought we'd pop on. I thought this was a nicer way to do a wee bit of a review and a chat about the film rather than being all serious and stuff about it. But it definitely would say it was an enjoyable experience. What we all think of it as Dune fans, and how we think of lore and all of this kind of stuff, I think that's down to our own individual taste. But it should make for plenty of Dune talk and banter and discussion, I think, over the next month or two. And H Account says, as it stands now, the Dune TV series is the most faithful. I'd agree. I have to say, I think this is the least faithful. but it still has so much of Frank Herbert's world in it. But it really has been, it's quite bare bones, I think, and I think its heart has been taken out of it a bit. Um, I think where June's real heart and feeling is gone. You know, and for me, it's always been. I've always said I've put a lot of time and work and effort into these books and stuff over the years. God, Jesus, how long is it now? It's ridiculous. I'll soon put 20 years of work into these books. That's outrageous. Um, but yeah, I think TV is where it actually belongs. I think June. One day I think we'll see it, and it can take us from the beginning of June with Pardo Kynes' little prologue, all the way to the God Emperor, all the way to the Bene Gesserit books, and then I would love to see someone just leave it and hang it. That's Frank Herbert's Dune series, and I think we'll see more of that. I'm sure we'll see maybe another film of it too. But for those of you who haven't seen it yet, and a couple of people sent me emails and stuff. By the way, last week I'm not responding to anything, folks, because my shoulder has been completely, absolutely wrecked. I haven't been near the keyboard or anything. Still doing my best not to move it a bit too much. So apologies to anybody, but I've checked it out. Definitely, if you're in two minds about it, I would say lose the doubt and go and enjoy the film. And I think you'll only kind of have your foibles by the time you get to the end of the movie. And I think that just depends on what you were expecting, what you weren't expecting. And I think for those of us who do know the books, sliding all over the place here, who do know the books so well, it is that level of interconnectivity within it that becomes probably can see. And it's a funny way. In a funny way, it's a bit like our own little golden path, isn't it? We kind of know the future of the Dune story, and we can see that there's possible futures that Denis Villeneuve has created within the story, and that as one thing dies, this creates problems with various futures. It's kind of it's a bit meta, isn't it, if you think about it that way? But yes, I would definitely agree. It's kind of the TV series is the most faithful. I thought they'd even managed to get they'd actually got the gist of the Greek mythical overlay in it. I thought there was a couple of little things that they did in that were particularly good. That really alluded to the Atreides themselves from Greek mythology and Greek history. HK said thank you. Brad said it sounds small world throwing off the shackles rather than the collapse of thousands of years of empire. So small world throwing off the shackles of the collapse of thousands of years of empire. Yeah, it as much as there's that, maybe you'll get that when you see it. As much as there's a lot of world building and mythopoeia within Dune, it doesn't seem apparent within. I suppose we'll go into the militaristic culture of the houses, and we'll go into the Fremen more so in this film than in the previous one. But excuse me, but the rest of the Imperium, all the political players, all the different aspects are not just within the major houses, the guild, the bankers, the water sellers, all of that kind of thing, and how that universe works and how the ecology of Arrakis works. All of that was kind of obliterated with the banquet scene. And again, the mini series had a proper go at it. They adjusted it a little bit. They brought Irulan in, but it's a really important scene, But yeah, and then of course you set up that all the houses of the Landsrat are up there and there, but it's kind of it kind of ends pretty much with Stilgar, Holy War, now go, and who knows, and then the music just kind of went, and that was it. But you're off to see it soon, Brad. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back on with the book club and Dune Messiah on Thursday at 9 p.m. GMT. And I'll tell you what, we'll probably do another little weekend chat. We'll try and come back. I know there's like staggered release dates and stuff. As I said, we weren't able to see it in the UK here until the 1st. So we'll pop back on next week, and we'll do another Dune chat. We'll hopefully get a lot more people who have seen it and we can all pop on and discuss what we think. It's always just me giving me my 10 cents worth, but I still got to go with I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys do too. And it was a nice day for me at the cinema. I generally had a nice wee holiday today. And just shoot, I'm off to the picture. So I enjoyed it, and just overall had a good experience, And it's got plenty of food for thought. And as always, I think it'll the one positive thing is it'll bring people to ultimately to Frank Herbert's Dune series, and get to reading it. And it's still a book that's very important and very relevant to this day. And always asking that, what does it teach us? All these years in, I'm still asking the same thing, Chronosis is saying, "Hi, Chronosis. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie, but I thought the ending was dumb. I didn't like it at all." And I think as much as that, I think there's something about Dune Part Two that's trying to show you what Paul is before you should know. If you see what I mean, you're not supposed to. You can get clues. There are clues to what Paul's about in Dune, but the horror of what he is isn't. You should not know that by the time they end it. And this is the big problem for people who've only read Dune. Put the book down, see the film. The only thing, they're done, and there's what a great guy Paul is, what a hero he's done it. All of this kind of stuff. The real oh goodness, what a little monster. And again, depends on what you think of him, and the statistics. And the choices that he makes, but there are clues. And funny enough, I was listening to something that Frank had said the other day, from someone who's read these books a lot and is reading them again. He wants you to read them again. By the way, they're books that are really up for a reread, but he's very keen for you to reread them again and notice little things. And I don't know. Must have read the first Dune book about 14 times. We figured now this one probably 4 or 5. I'm still finding things on them that for God's sake, how did I not see that before? And little clues that make you actually doubt what there was one thing in Dune Messiah when we read it, and it was basically the trial actually saying that they broke the Sook doctors, and immediately you go what? And the one thing Frank doesn't tell you is when did they do it. I think we've had a wee chat about soot pot. What does it mean? Does it really mean it potentially could change the whole book going back in relation to Dr. Yui and who is what is Dr. Yui? And again, it's just a thing. And is Frank doing this to mess with us? Because it's a thing that's only presented in Dune Messiah, and it's one sentence. And you go, oh, it just depends on if you go, what? Hang on a minute. What did he just say? It's one of those. It slapped me across the face, and I just genuinely had to go. I think we chatted with Sitpot about. Did we think it was Doctor? Maybe not. Probably not. Maybe it's just the way we thought it was. But it kept bothering me. It still bothers me. Why does Frank put that in this book? Why drop that one here? And it's a good question still. But I did not like the ending myself. The Chani off on the worm. I think the Chani character, I think was really badly wrong. And I get what they're trying to do, build the love in it. Just yeah. And as somebody just pointed out, there we said you're going to start the new film with him or hating him, probably. It just doesn't make sense, But I will have a bit more of a mull of a thought about it, folks, and let you know. As I said, I scribbled a few wee things down just on the back of the book club chapter for next time. I have to do a wee bit more colouring in, but that's where we're kind of ready to do with the book club. Chapter 11 on Thursday with the epigraph, I think what a joy it is to be alive. That one. That's an interesting little chapter, just all about the moon falling. And yeah, Paul even contemplating having an aristocrat's death. It's an odd wee thing, But yeah, the inner and internal and external struggle, etc. And of course, we're getting to see Paul probably overdosing the Atreides take a fair chunk of drugs to get their oracular visions going, you know. But yeah, I do agree, Kronos. It was not a good ending, but I said leaves it open, and yeah, I don't know. It just didn't. As much as the ending to the David Lynch version is wrong, it's completely wrong. Couldn't be any more wrong. It's still much more satisfying and enjoyable, wasn't it? I suppose ultimately that's the way you can think about it, guys. Is that all of these versions have things that aren't quite right or wrong, or that they've stretched their own imagination. But it's you know, how well does it work within that the realization of that film or that TV series? And hopefully, none of these things detract too much from Frank Herbert's books. You know, I did think there was a wee bit of with the marketing and just various people talking about Frank way back, just not understanding him at all, making comments about his attitudes to sexuality and blah blah blah, this kind of thing. Um, oh, hmm. I generally thought some of that stuff was a bit unfair. I don't see Dune as being a backward book or a book that's a product of its times and only those times. If you know, I mean, it's no longer relevant. I think it's as I said. I think it's so relevant today. It's incredible. Um, with the dangers of the charismatic leaders, the use of ecology as a platform, the way people hero worship, and would do anything. The things, the power structures that form around such individuals, and we've seen it with Donald Trump, for example. Over recent years, it's quite others as well. We've had Boris Johnson in this country. The cult of personality, particularly within people leadership, and Obama in America. There's all sorts, Putin in America. It's interesting, hydraulic despotism that we warned about. Of course, melange is oil, isn't it? It's an analogy. Uh, so it's analogous to oil, isn't it? And CHOAM is OPEC. We've got hydraulic despotism going on in the world right now. The fact that it affects my electricity bills. It's relevant. Dune is more relevant now than it's ever been, and it does not need to be rewritten, or Frank's words don't need to be altered really to suit a modern audience, whatever that might be. I think that's one of the weirdest, daftest things I've ever heard. It's good to adapt things for new generations and stuff like that, but books that are of particular worth and quality, they don't need to be rewritten, and they're relevant throughout the ages. The way the Baron dies and the exclusion of Ally is not good in my opinion. I agree. Yeah, it's my biggest gripe. I think is I think I was saying Kronos is they're all character based. The the word I wrote in my wee diary, by the way, was the Baron's death was pathetic. That's what I wrote, and I just wrote his character is pathetic. It's just a shame. He is definitely a great literary villain. And he is so much more than what was put on the screen. And just to I could sit and, there you go. There's me. I'm the Baron Harkonnen. How'd you like me? I'm a wee bit bald and I'm fat. It's just about as much fucking characterization as I saw. I'm sorry for swearing. It was just a waste of a character, and a waste of a great character, and a waste of a great actor. And I think that's the main gripe throughout is outside of the characters wasted, the actors wasted, or it's usually a combination of both. And they're particularly oh dear, I would love to. There could have been some really good dark humor, especially if we've seen Fade and the Baron and Piter. Those three should be in the same room going at each other, if you know what I mean. And that interplay of the Harkonnens. I just generally think the characters they're not right, and I didn't get that from. In fact, I'll be honest with you, the only character that does feel right, I think, that's been handled properly is Paul. Um, and again, I'll give Timothée Chalamet, full marks. Um, the one thing that he's got. I think every actor who's played Paul Atreides so far. So we've got is Alec Newman, Kyle MacLachlan, and Timothée Chalamet. They've all done something different with the role, and I'd say each one has done their own thing in a way that's worked. So I have no problem seeing him as Paul Atreides. I think it was a good. I think he was cast well, and he's done a good job acting. And he's believable as Paul. He's kind of got he's the right build. He's the right kind of height. He's not necessarily the right skin color, but nobody's produced a non-white Paul Atreides yet, have they? Or a non-white Leto, for that matter. But yeah, I thought there was no problems with it. And it's often, if you look at messianic science fiction, messianic characters, they tend to be the least interesting. If you know what I mean, our messiahs tend to be a bit bland. It's the characters around them that tend to elevate them. It's in fiction, you know. But yeah, Alia being gone was just what a great character. What a waste, just a waste. I think could have been a great thing on the screen. People could have been absolutely loving her, you know, just enjoying it. And yeah, the Baron's death, I was. It's a death that's typical of a villain who dies through their own greed. Does that make sense? You know, the villain who won't leave the jewel behind, you know, leave it behind, and gets killed. That kind of villain, you know, who gets crushed for the, you know, they won't leave the treasure behind. That kind of thing. Him reaching for the throne the way he did, being prone, just focused nothing but just the greed for the throne. You know, the throne is for the Harkonnens, but it's not for the Baron, and I thought that was wrong. And he just, yeah, it's just he was just pathetic. He's just a shadow as a character, you know. But we've got to say it. Hang on, I've got to look up the actor's name very quickly, and then I'll wrap up, folks. Let's see if I can get the casting. I'm very bad at remembering his name. Is it Kenneth McMillan? Let me see. Give me the cast. There we go. Where would he be? What a great cast. Give us a shout out from the home. Everybody in the original Dune film. Who am I thinking on there? Kenneth McMillan. As the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. We've yet to see an actor who can do a better job. I think he owned that role, and his Baron's over the top, but it's still a great Baron. You know, and it's such an enjoyable Baron. The Baron's just a gutting for me, I think. But you know, it's but imagine if you took Darth Vader that. You know, defanged him the way you've done the Baron here, something like that. Pick a good villain and defang him the way you've defanged the Baron, and that's the term I'm using. He's been defanged. I would if the Baron threatened me, I'd just slap him. Wouldn't be bothered, wouldn't be scared by him and shake him a Twinkie or something. You know, he is not villain. He's just nothing. You know, it's just a shadow of the character, but it's just a caricature. I don't know what to think about it. I've never seen such a good villain just become such a lame thing. Really, it's, you know, maybe it's partly done to sort of emphasize the threat and villainy of Fade Routher, but I didn't think it worked. You know, but listen, there we go, folks. Goodness, I've been gabbing for a while. 3 hours and 18 minutes. So well, so there's a long review, isn't it? But I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. I know it's nice to see that. I think a number of you have seen it, have got your own kind of wee foibles with it, and from my point of view, it was nice chatting to people who are not being. I haven't seen, you know, the level of sycophantic responses to it in some cases have been quite. I don't never quite get that. You know, the whole masterpiece genius. It saved cinema. It's the best thing since sliced bread. This kind of thing, you know, it's just a bit much. and there's been an awful lot of that. I think the marketing of the film's been a wee bit funny as well. But yeah, oddly enough, we've been on a wee journey here for years, I suppose, waiting for this film to come out. So it's nice to finally. It feels like the end of the road in some ways, but we've got plenty more to do because we're doing all of these 6 June book clubs. So we're halfway through this one at the minute, but yeah, there we go, folks. Listen, I'm getting a wee bit tired as well. It's been a long day, and I've had not a lot of sleep for the last few days. So I will wrap up, folks, and I'll say thank you very much for joining me, and thanks very much for the chat. And I hope you have enjoyed June. Chronosis and people like loud music and nice visuals. I do too. But yeah, I like my villains to be smart and villainous. Yeah, it is a bit of look at the shiny. It is spectacle. You could argue it certainly to a degree it's style over substance. I think but I think it's enough of the substance made it in. But maybe the criticism is not enough. But that's it. I think it's good enough. I think it's a pretty good film. But my big gripe is the characters. They're the characters and what's done with them. It's pretty poor. I got a wee light here, and I'll be understanding. I keep understanding there's these days. I've been playing loud music for a long time. Nice visuals. It's funny though when someone creates a vision for something like this and puts it on the screen, it tends to inform you and how you imagine these things. It's a bit like when I was saying Lord of the Rings, the old 70s audiobooks and things like Gormenghast and Foundation and a bunch of H.P. Lovecraft. One of my favorite old time radio ones is the Dunwich Horror, and the atmosphere that these things can have on radio. So just in terms of adapting these things, I don't think that things are unadaptable. What's the other great science fiction book that they say is not unmake? You can't make a movie into it. I'll tell you what it is. It's Tiger. It's meant to be the unfilmable one. I completely disagree. And Ubik's meant to be unfilmable. And I think you could easily make a film out of both of them. I would have no problem. I don't think there'd be any problem making Tiger into a movie today. It would just have to be damn well written. But to do, what was the other one there? I said, see my memory. What was the other unfilmable one? Ubik. I think you could film Ubik, but you have to make 2 films and have them have 2 different movies that start the same, and then you have 2 different versions of it, and then end, and they have one ending. So you'd have go see one version of the film, and go and then you'd go see the other one. If anybody who's read Ubik, you'd have to understand you'd have to have read Ubik to understand what I mean. But there's 2 divergent storylines, and I think you could easily do it with 2 movies in a funny kind of way. But yeah, all sorts of stuff to talk about. But we'll have to collect our thoughts a wee bit more, and hopefully a few more of you will have seen it by the next time we're on. So I'll wrap up now, folks, and just say thanks very much for your contributions tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the film if you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, I hope you get to see it soon, and I hope you enjoy it. Excuse me. And for those who are interested, we'll be on with the Jim Messiah Book Club this Thursday at 9 p.m. GMT for Chapter 11. This is the copy of the book I'm working from. If anybody who hasn't popped in and wanted to join us, we keep these all on playlists. Chapter 11, there are no chapters in the June books, so we just go with the epilogues. It's the one that begins, I think, what a joy it is to be alive. Page 139 in this edition on Thursday. Anybody wants to pop in, and we'll probably pop on again. We'll probably pop on again on the Friday or Saturday after that one next week to see if we can get a few more June thoughts from you all, because I know some of you haven't seen the film, and we can get a bit of banter from everybody and sort of narrow our focus and sort of maybe make up our mind a wee bit on what we think of the film and where it's going to go on, and if June Messiah will be as good, I suppose. But yeah, all in all, not a bad day. There we go. Take it easy, Doc, says Carlos. Thanks very much, Carlos. Everybody out there, take it easy, folks. Look after yourselves. Enjoy your June part 2. if that's what you're up to this week, or Dune Part 1 as well. And I hope, see what you think. Have a nice time. Basically, look after yourselves this week, and I'll see you real soon. All the best, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.